Welcome back to Warriors Den Podcast, episode 62. On this episode, we have CJ Strongheart. He is a lifelong martial artist who has started in Taekwondo, did wrestling at BJJ. He trains under 1FC champion Bibiano Fernadez, and I've trained with him. I think I originally met him in an open mat and have trained with him periodically here and there. He's actually taught me some stuff here and there, grappling, etc. And he's also a native of Canada in BC of the Saik'uz tribe. I screwed it up, band. He was telling me Saik'uz Band of the Dake'ilh tribe, and often they're called the carrier people by the white man. So in this podcast, I really enjoyed it. We discuss a lot about martial arts, native issues in Canada and a little bit in the U.S., a little bit of general theories and philosophies. But it's very nice to sit down with someone who can discuss some of these issues in a rational, calm, non-emotional way that makes sense. I learned a few things for sure. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga. If you want to learn Krav Maga online from us, basically our curriculum at www.UTKM.eu. If you want to train when we can do regular classes again, it is www.urbantacticskm.com. You can follow us on Urban Tactics Krav Maga on Instagram and Twitter. It's Urban Tactics KM, although I don't use it that much. If you want to follow me on Instagram, The Pondering Carvist, I post periodically, but not that often. And to be honest, our Instagram's not posting much in Urban UTKMs because no content. Of course, if you want to learn Krav Maga privates, etc., you can also contact us. Is there anything else? I am not sure. I can't remember. Ooh, I finally got a pop screen, so if it sounds a little different on my end, although I forgot to bring my headphones when we were recording, and there's a bit of echo on the other side because I couldn't tell CJ, you need to speak closer to the microphone, so that's what that is about. But I think the pop screen for any of you audio nerds on my end makes a difference due to how I speak. So, I think it makes a difference. So enjoy this podcast with CJ Strongheart. Krav Maga is not just a self-defense system. It is a way of life. Warriors Den is a podcast for Kravists, fighters, martial artists, warriors, politicians, and general citizens. Consider this. The society that separates scholars from its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. Thucydides. Your host, Jonathan Fader, talks to guests in an open and uncensored format about their fights, their philosophies, and their lives. No topic is taboo, and the conversation may start in one place and end in another. As the quote suggests, you cannot separate the warrior from the politics and the world around them, as a true warrior must be a student in all forms of art and science.
You're listening to The Warriors Den. Brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga, turning lambs into lions.
Hello, welcome back. So I don't have headphones, so sorry. I will look at my monitor to know if I'm talking too loud. So today I have Mr. CJ Strongheart of the what tribe? I keep forgetting.
Mister, yeah, that's my father. No, I am of the Saik'uz tribe. Carrier tribe. Because there's the Dene up north, and there's the carrier, and I'm part of the Saik'uz carrier. And there's a bunch of us. There's the Fort St. James, and then there's Take'ilh, and it's just I'm part of the Saik'uz brand.
Yeah, for us white people, the millions of the different things gets confusing.
It's confusing for us too because even in my culture, we'll say moose like Genyo, and then you drive 3 hours up north, and then they say Jayo. Yeah,
that's pretty standard. Now. Yeah, I mean, it's near Prince George, right? You grew up kind of in the boonies there.
Yeah, it's like an hour. My reservation's an hour from Prince George, and there's a town called Vanderhoof, which is on the main highway. And then you get off the main highway, and you drive about 10 more minutes west, and then you get to my reservation. Yeah. Out by Nukai Lake, if you want to find it on the G-Maps.
One day. I haven't been that far north yet. But so with that being said, living up there, how'd you get into martial arts?
Well, my family moved around a lot, just finding business, just whatever the work is. And my first stint with martial arts was just TV, watching Ninja Turtles, and just having fun with that. But actually learning was my mom got a job with the Justice Institute for a little bit in British Columbia, or in Vancouver here. And I started doing Taekwondo.
Everyone's favorite martial arts.
I think it's really good for kids. It teaches them dexterity, and it's not a very hard sport. So like you can kind of get them to do a lot, feel good, and not, get punched in the face or get bullied by some better, more talented kid. So I did that, and then when we got back, we had to go back up north, just getting jobs, and I joined the wrestling team because I'm pretty much got bullied into it. In fact, we had a really good wrestling team, like huge wrestling team. You had to try out, and all the wrestling boys would get like fired up by the coaches or the staff and say, "Oh, go recruit, go find us new people." And it was actually back then. Now it's like whoever walks on, you're on the team. Today, now it was a tryout. You had to wrestle everybody. You couldn't make it. You'd actually not be able to be on the team.
Back when they actually wanted athletic prowess, not just participation.
Now like participation is like a gold standard. It's like, oh my God, he just shows up and does all the drills. He's amazing. Then it was like you could do all you wanted and you still wouldn't make the team. So I did wrestling. And through that, I played rugby, and I played hockey because it was just kind of a prerequisite being up north and being native. And so I was in high school. I basically rotated between hockey, rugby, wrestling, and street fighting because that just happened.
Super Canadiana. Well, I don't know if it is anymore, but it was for a long time.
It definitely was in my era because my cousins they got popped in with the juvie base, or our equivalent of it. Came back and learned how to box while they were in, and then everybody wanted to box. On the res.
Now, because you started with wrestling, but obviously you have a lot of talent in all sorts of styles.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed because I had that Taekwondo background. So I was spin kicking.
Taekwondo, right?
Yeah, I was spin kicking as a little kid.
See, it's so little. It's so I think so little of Taekwondo.
I do too.
It's out of my mind already.
No, I honestly do too. Like I have like two techniques I learned from when I was a kid. It's like a stepping right side kick. And then a turning side kick. And that's it. Out of my whole, I have a green belt in Taekwondo, and that was like my whole experience was these two kicks. So.
And then obviously now you're heavy in the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and I got through jiu-jitsu because I went to university after playing hockey. I went up to the junior level, and then back then you couldn't be, if you were 5'11", you're basically like, you can't make a kid.
Yeah, I know lots of people like that.
So I did that. I played a couple exhibition games, had good games. I was really pumped. I was playing with these guys. Like, man, I got good chemistry. And they just didn't think I could handle, beat the...
Yeah. Like, you're not 6'3" monster, 190,
and even
200
juniors
pounds.
is different now. Back then, like if you didn't fight, they didn't take you. So
yeah.
you had to have one scrap with somebody. So I was just like eyeing up somebody right away.
Let's go.
Well, I knew I could fight him. Like I was like, I don't know if I could beat him, but we could. Hockey fighting, you can kind of stall it out. You just had to let the coaches know you weren't soft. But I was doing that, and then I just I was bored. I lost my athletic piece in my life that was allowing me to be happy. Even to this day, I realize that I need to have that piece. And so I was like, so I just asked online people who knew were doing it, and there was a guy named Dan Shank, old school NHB fighter in Prince George, and I went to his house and started training in his house. And then because he was just busy.
How long ago was that?
Years, man. Like I can't even top of my head think of it. Thinking like 2004. Long time.
It wasn't even like on people's radar yet.
No,
2005
Pride was still alive when I started.
Because I remember like 2005-ish was when I think the Ultimate Fighter really started, and that's where it just exploded. Now some people like the Ultimate Fighter show, not UFC, and then I guess while the hardcore fight people knew about the Gracies from the early 90s, the average person, like if I asked my parents back then, hey, can you find me? I actually did when I was a kid. Can you find me a martial arts doesn't have katas? And they're like, we don't know of anything. So they didn't even bother looking. But there was, so you found.
I was really fortunate with my Taekwondo instructor. He was actually from North Korea.
Oh, yeah.
So he actually had a real
hardcore.
Military. We really kicked each other. Like the padding on, everyone wore that because it's like, oh, you need to wear that. Because it was like, and he would make you. He would tell you, it's like, why aren't you kicking James? Or whoever. You had to really
kick him
there.
harder.
Yeah, little kids just going to war. So which is good because it really taught you how to be in an altercation. It really saved me in a lot of situations for that. But I found him, and then he and then 2 days of training with him, he was like, hey, you want to fight? So I took a fight.
The old school way.
I went in and scrapped, and I did some terrible things. I had the guillotine, just did not have the knowledge how to finish it.
This is for jiu-jitsu, right?
I went in just to train. Like, hey, I'll learn how to fight, and I really loved
Or
jiu-jitsu.
Taekwondo. Or jiu-jitsu.
It was because university.
Oh, yeah.
And I found Dan Shank, who was a fighter, fought all that stuff. And And that's when I trained with him, and I did a few things. I learned jiu-jitsu because I love submission wrestling.
Yeah.
So pro wrestling was like my things I loved as a kid. And he said, "Do you want to fight?" And I just, at that time, just, young, not having anywhere to go, I didn't want to be somebody that said no to something that could lead me somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I just said yes, and I fought a guy. I was like 150 with my clothes on. He was like 190, or I was like 170, I think. Sorry. And he's a big boy, and I had a guillotine, just did not have the knowledge to finish it. And then we got stood back up, and he punched me in the eye. And if you've ever been punched in the eye really hard before in your life, like really in your eyeball, you back up.
Oh, yeah.
You just find space, right?
Yeah.
And I fell between the ropes, and the ref was like, no, it's over. And I was like, no, shit.
Yeah.
And then I trained for another fight, and I really got beat up bad after that. I got mounted by, I think, Andrew Snail. Trained out of Revolution. He put the beating on me bad.
Now we're talking MMA now, right?
Yeah, because it was always
fight.
MMA. I never started in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
I always kind of went to, it was North. You just was fighting, right? You had to go to them, it was all that.
What is this gi nonsense?
I actually didn't have a gi until blue belt. I had a sambo gi that I would wear, and I wouldn't even wear the pants. I just had the shorts. And I had those 2 fights, and then after those 2 fights and getting beat up and just kind of really having my ego stripped away and all my man bullshit taken away of like, you really need to learn how to fight. And because I was always athletic, right? I just jumped on the wrestling team, and I was good at it. I jumped on a rugby team, I was good at it. Hockey, I was just good at it. And then with that, I started taking martial arts seriously and trained for a bunch of years. That's when I really started jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And through that crew, I went to Kai-10 MMA in Prince George, and meeting another fighter, Ryan Chappie, who was trained by Bibby, and that's how I met Bibby. And
Bibiano Fernadez, what's the weight class champ in 1FC?
He's the bantamweight 135.
Yeah,
but he was like the 145 Dream Champion, tournament winner. He's just he's
monster.
an amazing person. Yeah, he really is a monster. But he's like the top 5 nicest people to ever meet. I was just training with him on Friday, and I got just beat up.
Yeah, for people who don't know, he lives in Metro Vancouver.
Yeah, out in
even though he fights in 1FC in Singapore and all over there, he lives here.
Yeah, you can go get beat up by Bibby.
Yeah,
if you're good enough and he likes you.
Yeah, I mean, Vancouver as a martial arts community since even back then is huge now.
Yeah, it's actually really intense. It's funny because a lot of people have a lot of heat with each other in the city, which I think is hilarious because it's like we're all so close, but everyone has to fight each other to get better. Like, we're not really good at bringing outer talent in to fight our guys. We just fight each other. Yeah. And so it's kind of like this, I don't want to say crab in a bucket because it's not violent enough. It's like rats in a bucket. One guy's going to make it out and he's going to be really good. Yeah. And we have a bunch of those standouts. Yeah. But in those side of those standouts, I remember when I started fighting when it was illegal. It was just deciding to be legal.
On the native lands, right?
Yeah. It was just deciding to be legal. And I saw all these guys with all this talent, and they just was like, well, man, you're awesome, but hey, man, Jeremy Kennedy's out there, and he's in your division.
Did you fight him, or no? Did you get around that?
I never got to fight him, because he fights at 45, and I was always a 55er, and I just, after getting my ass beat, I was like, no, I really want to learn martial arts. And I kind of really drifted towards the grappling aspect, and having a little.
There's more longevity in grappling, anyway.
Well, because you could be the old black belt. Yeah, you get to be the old black belt, just always hanging out, training people. Like even now, I'm trying to find a fight in March, but in that process of training with people, I find I'm training them still, helping them out, giving tips and tricks.
I think that's your personality.
Yeah, and I'm maybe I should just stay coaching, So because it's I get to be in the room and get beat up, beat people up sometimes.
I mean, that's a tough decision. Like when I started getting into martial arts, and this is early, when the UFC was real, I'm like, oh, this is something I'm interested in. But then you start doing it, and I'm like, okay, I have a problem. I'm actually not an athlete, and I'm 5'6", walk around, I'm lighter now, but at the time I'd walk around 170 pounds and I have TRX arms.
At 5'6", that's rough.
So it's I was even if I put all the time in the world into getting to be the best version of myself, physically speaking, for me to cut down to 135 is going to kill me. I did it once, and I was like, I'm not going to do this, even amateur. It's just I cannot get to the weight class for my body size that I need to do and be healthy. I was like, nope.
The lockdown really put me in a bad spot.
This year?
Because I got up to I was at 195 this New Year's, and I'm just now down to 180. And the training sessions to get to this dropping 15 pounds. That's amazing. I'm I'm still not even close.
Well, it's a lot of diet. I'm not a strict diet
really
do and do not, you need to be able to be happy though. So what I started doing with the girlfriend is every January we'll do a 2 to 5 day fast, and then we just do keto for a month. And if you do something like that every even 6 months or a year, you find it actually, or we found it just like resets everything for you. And I even like the idea of a natural, like, in the winter you eat more fats and more meat and more of that, and then in the summers you'll eat more fruits and vegetables throughout the year, of course. I think it's our biology is probably still more rooted towards that.
I'm terrible because I've argued to the death with all my nutritionists. And my one is just Daniel Dick. He's the only one that he's a friend of mine. He's a wrestler.
Is he a dick?
He's awesome. D-Y-C-K, Dick. Awesome. He's a great guy. Anyways, love him to death. And I always try to support his shit because he's always made me make weight.
Yeah.
And I tell him, I'm not going to do what you tell me. Yeah. He's like, no, I'll just keep eating meat, have some fruit here and there. Yeah. Just drink this much water. Yeah. Train hard. Because he knows I'm one of those that northern kid.
You don't stop training.
I did 5 rounds before I came there, of MMA with the 45 champion. Yeah. But he's stupid skilled. I hate that kid. Yeah. He's one of those people that make you not want to fight because you're like, there's these guys out there. Yeah,
is he on the UFC's radar yet, or?
He's just really green because he was world champions in wrestling, I believe, Oguzhan, and he just he's really green. There's things he has to learn. He's too much natural instinct. Yeah, where it's like you want to really to be at that high level, you got to be super talented. You got to be that one in one every 10 guys. He's the one guy. Yeah, it's gonna stand out of this group. But then you got to polish him. You got to make him this is striking. You can't have these tells. You gotta, really just the education of it all to make it to that highest level. Yeah, I think he could definitely make it there just on his instincts alone and some basic wrestling.
Usually takes you pretty far, and then you run into a GSP as he's wearing his Kyokushin GSP shirt, sweater. Because he shut down. I was watching the fight yesterday with Carlos Condit, and my girlfriend's not that into, but I'm like, yeah, that guy fought GSP a long time ago. She's like, oh, he did? Because she's not. I'm like, yeah, he was naturally talented guy, and then he ran into the GSP train. He just ran through everyone except for that one loss due to his ego. It just happens. That's what
will kill you. The ego will kill you. Yeah, that's what's making me lose 10 pounds. Because I just that feeling. I was training with Bibby and his guys, and there were people there where I was they were green enough where I'm I could pull the veteran, and be I'm pretty sure I could pull some tricks and I could get through that round. And I go to walk over there to that, and Bibby is like, no, no, not him. You go over there. You Eric. I'm like, shit.
I mean, you don't give yourself enough credit. You're probably in the jiu-jitsu community one of the more well-rounded people because you draw from a lot of stuff. I actually think you made me realize the importance of wrestling. I knew, but none of my coaches were wrestlers. None of the people I trained with were wrestlers. Always taking it, and it's I really need to develop that skill. I'm still not. I can only do certain things. I can't do low shoots. My knees will not allow that. But just realizing the positioning and even your approach because it's the more old school.
Yeah, and I also got really. I have a really cool coach, Travis Hillman, right? And he had that sad story of most athletes where he was just amazingly talented, could have made it, but there's no money in wrestling. Yeah. He's got a family, so he must be a teacher, right? Yeah. He was a teacher, and luckily I got to be him. But because Canadians kind of had more of an open stance to their style, the Americans have a very rigid style.
American wrestling.
Yeah, and it's great horsepower. That Detroit horsepower, man. Just step on the gas. And not that they're not skilled, but I find with the Canadians, they got a lot of European influence. Because when I wrestled, I was 100 pounds barely. Yeah. So all my coaches were like, yeah, you're probably never going to be able to do that. So they taught me a lot of really neat tricks and movement and really how to use all the weight you can. Yeah. And if you were like me, where you just got bullied as a kid, which is, it's funny how people don't want to be bullied, but yet being bullied just seems to make you so good at a bunch of, gives you a good mindset. It just,
always makes you go crazy.
Yeah, too. There's that. Just how you deal with the problem, right? That's, it's the other day, a friend of mine was just telling me about what jihad really meant. It's the internal struggle. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That really will polish yourself, right? The internal struggle of man. And it gets politicized. Except
people don't do that.
Yeah, it's politicized, right? They use it for their own means. But he told me what it actually meant. And I was like, okay, that makes way more sense as to why that means so much to you as a person. Yeah. Because if you just said the internal struggle, I'd be like, yeah, man, that's real. You got to really work on that. But that made me just listen and always learn. Yeah. Because even now, I'm supposed to get my black belt soon if you followed the 10-year mark and all that stuff and time.
Well, you're good enough.
Yeah, you can have the skill.
Kick my ass most of the time.
I like to think I have a lease, but I don't live there yet. You know?
No, to this day, I still think you got me in the most beautiful submission. You did. I forgot some throw right into an armbar or something, or right into a darce. You threw me, and then I was in a Doris before I knew what the hell was going on.
In wrestling, it's like the whizzer. It's that whizzer throw, or the Uchimata with the hook. Yeah. And then you just kind of fell on your side, and it just sank in nicely. Yeah. Sometimes things just work out.
I cannot do Darces. My T-Rex, I try to do them, and I can never finish them unless they have a tiny neck. It's like, fuck.
Well, I think I was always good at Darce chokes because I always came from that wrestling background of hitting the cravat first. I don't try to connect my arms. I try to get my elbows together and my hands together to manipulate the neck. Yeah. So I'm always working on manipulation and position before I'm working on just sinking the choke in.
Yeah, for those listening, cravat, he's doing like a gable grip, palm to palm sort of thing. Yeah,
it's like your palm. Basically, it's like a Muay Thai grip. Yeah. You put your hands together and put your elbows together. And if you know the Darce positioning, it's basically like a Japanese necktie. Yeah. But you just use that position to control everybody, which is wrestling. It's
a choke for those not know.
Yeah. So
whenever you're doing it, I don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah, no idea. Gotta get with the terminology. But that's the other thing beautiful about wrestling. There's no like fancy names. It's like you kind of have to go to class.
It depends, like even in jiu-jitsu, I'll go to another school that has a different lineage and they'll call in technique something. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And they're like, how do you not know what that is? And then they show it to me. I'm like, oh, that's a this. And I'm like, well, as long it's like, I think you were talking about the open-mindedness and you see the evolution of jiu-jitsu, like the Danaher crew and them just opening it up but at the same time a lot of the stuff was already known, like sambo and other stuff.
A lot of it's like it's from the Shuto background. Actually I think that's why he uses a lot of the Japanese names,
which drives me nuts. I'm like, nobody can remember that shit. You don't
remember the inside Senkaku?
No. I understand if you're really into culture and like that. I just think that if you want to speak to a wider audience, you need to simplify it. I'm sorry.
Danaher has his master's, right, or his PhD or something.
I believe so.
He's
very intellectual.
Everyone I've met who really jumps into the ivory tower tries to keep it that way. Yeah. I mean, like you must learn the terminology to get the language. It's like the club. Yeah. You have to know.
Terminology is important everyone needs to know what you're talking about. So like in professional things, you need to avoid confusion. But when you're talking to someone from the outside who doesn't, you need to use the colloquial, the common terms that are more likely to be used. Now, I did a Danaher class once. I'd love to go back, but New York is a shit show, and I think they're all going to Costa Rica anyway. I'll go there for sure. But
I think they're already there. So.
Yeah, they are already there, but whether Danaher is going to stay there or not is a question. He might stay at Henzo's in New York, but he was like, I did it, no white belts allowed, and for a reason.
Yeah, you need a base knowledge.
My no-gi was limited, and thank God I'd done some classes with Matt Kwan.
Kwan actually gave me the best. We were saying earlier about like the notoriety in the Vancouver. Give me the best compliment I've ever got ever. Yeah. He was like, "You're an MMA guy who rolls like a jitsu."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Fuck man, means a lot to me."
But yeah, like if I hadn't have trained with Matt first, I would have gone into Danaher's class, right? And then I just got my purple belt, I think, and I would have been like, "What the fuck is going?" Because his teaching style is you either know or you don't.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you're fucked. But he's produced like killers.
They put the effort in, right? Yeah. They do the homework. It's kind of like what Freddie Roach would do to George. You show him something, George would go home and do homework and come back, and they're like, "Oh, okay, now you can move on with you."
Oh, they'd certainly put in the hard work, but it's I would say that it's more than that, because you, as a coach, right, you can produce one champion, but if you produce a lot, there's something more there, because
I
it's
argue
the methodology.
That in grappling, because it's like it's the team, and it's the knowledge, because that's why like. I remember when I was like the early 2000s and my coach was talking about the Mendez brothers, how amazing they were. This is when they were competing. And then he would talk about, they have these closed door classes, no phones, no nothing. And I'm like, well, it's still jiu-jitsu. Yeah. They're not doing anything that's not the human body can't do. They just have patterns and sequences that are just unique to what they want to accomplish. Yeah. It's like if you've never done the crab ride, and again, I apologize for audio.
It's a weird looking back take leg thing.
But if you've never felt it, it is like it's like voodoo magic is happening to you.
I just scoop my hip backs. Unless they get deep first, I scoop back.
Just control the feet. Just fight the feet and you'll be fine. That's what I do at least. And or even like today, I had to because Ozan just being so talented and having his wrestling background, I had to I evolved the Kimura trap system for him. Yeah. And those athletic people that give me more control over the sequence of what's going on. But if you understand the game, it's not that bad. That's why, like, even IBJJF is opening up the leg reaping.
In no gi only, though. Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Shit, the gi is scary with that shit. But I feel it's just a knowledge base. Yeah. And, like, or guys would have got really good. Like, not to say that Nicky isn't super talented, and
Nicky
amazing.
Ryan, right?
Yeah, but he's not doing as good as his brother.
Yeah.
His brother's a heavyweight. That's just.
He's also trash talking in his way to millionaire status.
That's the funny thing. It's like in my culture, if you're loud, we don't like you.
Yeah.
Because you don't get, traditional, I should say. Because if you're loud, you rarely have anything to say.
Yeah.
Because if you have something to say, people will listen.
Yeah.
And then, too, if you're loud, you scare all the food away.
Yeah. Well, there's that. And it's certainly an interesting perspective, like culture, like factually, Conor and Gordon Ryan, skill aside, Conor McGregor would not have been where they are without the trash talking.
No, it's part of who he is, though. That's what I like about it. That's who he is. He's going to fight you like that.
Yeah.
And that's just what people attach to.
But they're like super nice people. Like all the nice stories you hear, like Conor gets drunk and does dumb shit. But both of them, you hear like crazy.
I grew up on the
like,
reservation,
nice
man.
Yeah.
If everybody got like if you got tagged for life of something you did stupid while you were drunk and young or super happy, I would not be able to sit in front of you today. I'd be in some cell somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think perception is everything, because there's a lot of people who hate them because they're like trash talk, disrespectful. I come from the perspective of, hey, it's got there where they're, and also fuck the honor stuff, okay? Because it's so relative. And like someone made a rant, might have been Gordon Ryan, about all the Gracies talking about honor, but they used to run around kicking people's door and beating the people up. What the hell does that have to do with
dojo
honor?
busting was their thing.
Yeah.
There's like a story even like about Hollis, who was considered to be like other than Hickson.
Yeah.
Hollis, he was actually maybe if I'm forgetting it, but they always say he's the most talented. He's the one that really trained Hickson. It was on a documentary. It was online.
Which one?
I can't remember. It was on there. It was like had all the Gracies.
I still need to see the close guard. Have you heard about that one? It's
no, I gotta get on that.
Oh crap! What's his name? Drysdale, I think, made it or was heavily involved in that. I think it was him because he keeps posting it. Drysdale, by the way, amazing coach. I was fortunate with the last World Masters I went to. We had Drysdale. I did a Drysdale seminar. I did the Mendez brothers seminar. Galvao and Angelique. Whatever.
I wish I can go to those. I wanted to go to those this year, but because when I went to Worlds, I was like, okay, I know the game they play now. I'll come back and I'll kill everybody. Yeah. And then I saw this happen. I was like, I was gonna
gear up for last summer to be like, and I lost all my motivation. I have no motivation.
It's just really hard to go from like sparring MMA to go and guys butt scooting to you. You know, like it's a really, really hard. It's like. Almost, I wish Jits guys would have a little bit of empathy for that, because it's like you have no idea how dangerous it is just to butt scoot in front of somebody.
Yeah. And get punched in the face.
Over and over. Even if you get a leg and you're like, oh, come under and I'll spin. No, I'll just grab your chin and I'll just start. It's just, you got to
by the way, IBJJF still won't allow Imanari rolls. I'm like, you crazy. That's so stupid.
That is weird. It's weird because I did it at Worlds and didn't get DQ'd.
Yeah, if they don't. As long as you don't reap, but they were saying something about like, Imanari roll is where you do like an inverted roll on your shoulders and then grab their leg, basically. If you want to,
I don't understand their system.
It's ego. It's like judo when the Americans started coming in, who with wrestling backgrounds and started doing really good at the then legal leg takedowns, and they just banned it because of honor. We must integrity. No, this is ego. This is all ego. Because a lot of, there's that whole trend like American Jiu-Jitsu. And there's a lot of Gracies who still hate the fact. They're like, what are you talking about, American Jiu-Jitsu? And it's like, well, they're doing stuff that you didn't like. Now, if you know the lineage of history, like Fada was one of the original red belts, and he was poor, and the Gracies were wealthy. Well, he used to beat the Gracies doing leg locks all the time. And it's really an ego thing. They can say it all.
The Luta Libre guys?
Well, no, I forgot this guy's full name, but his name is Fada, and I forgot there's still a big lineage under him.
Oh, cool.
But he was one of the few non-Gracies, but he was from like the poor parts, and he had his own school, and he would teach them everything. People forget
like the Gracies were government officials.
Yeah, wealthy.
With the military.
Yeah, and well, it's when you talk about history, it's always like, well, what really happened, and is it ego, and is this? Is what's going on.
Back to the story, Hollis, he would do. Someone beat up his nephew for whatever reason, good or bad. But like Hollis shows up and he's like, "I'm gonna beat you up in your dojo," and he says, "Oh, I'm gonna beat everybody up." He's like, I can imagine a person. Yeah. You imagine you go show up for jiu-jitsu, you're gonna learn some arm locks today.
You can't do that anymore.
Puts you in the truck. Is like, "No, we're going over here. We're gonna go." I was like, "Holy shit!"
Just beat you in the back. Yeah,
just terrible. But that's I like the honor stuff. and all that stuff. But deep down, this is combat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I train people.
Yeah.
Like even when my girlfriend training her, I said, I'm going to train you as a combative jiu-jitsu person till blue belt. Then I'll teach you Brimbolo and Dake'ilh and all that cool stuff.
I think that's like, I don't want to teach jiu-jitsu again till I'm black belt.
Black belt.
But, well, I can do it casually, but not a program, and I need my own school.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking about how to approach it, and the message of simple keeps getting into my mind, and also I just don't like so many jiu-jitsu people pushing the self-defense angle when I see what they're teaching, and I'm like, you're not teaching self-defense.
Yeah, no, I put the word combatives.
Yeah.
Like, not self-defense, combatives.
So I put like, how do I build a program that keeps to my spirit, like Krav's spirit of self-defense, while teaching them the fundamentals? And it's like, well, I think if the idea that if it doesn't consistently work at the highest levels, it's probably not worth teaching unless you get a student who's like wants to. So I was like, I'll keep it simple, fundamentals through, a white and blue belt, and then say at like purple belt you have like an open class where it's like, hey, what do you guys want to work on? Have you studied your game? What do you want to develop? And kind of go from there.
Yeah, do you think Dake'ilh was really cool, or do you want to work out? It's cool. You can work these games, but remember, that's a sport aspect.
Yeah.
I always hated hearing stories of people going like, he was purple belt and he got knocked out at the bar or something like that. And like, well,
can you take a punch? He's been doing jiu-jitsu.
Well, it's not taking the punch, but you should learn how to frame, make distance. Hickson talks about it, his stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's just still like, it's not hard to teach somebody how to frame, stop punches. You don't need to teach them how to box.
Yeah.
But just that combatives, as I always say, is really important. And like, even like my students now, like I'll tell them when we roll, they're like, you've been doing this for so long, you're so good. I'm like, hey dude, if I get in my guard and you can break my guard and get up and get away from me, you can win.
Just punch him in the nuts. It works like a charm.
Not always.
Not always.
But it's like, it's always an option. But I say, but if you can just get up and get away from me, that's jiu-jitsu, bro. That's self-defense. If you can just, while we're doing stuff where I'm on your back and you do the proper escape and you're like, shit, I can just get up and run away. I'm like, that's good. Do that. That's going to save you. That's actually going to be worth your $100 when you come in here, to the skill to protect your getaway, right?
Yeah. People forget that because like in jiu-jitsu, you want to keep pressure and pass but the reality is you just need to be good enough not to be thrown around and create space, and then you're good. And if you realize, oh shit, this person is good, a lot of people from a lot of things, unless they're like the best, will open up. Like if you watch Nogi, they're always breaking constantly. And like that's a bit more conducive to, not Nogi specific, but just the concept of I just need to be good enough to create space so I can run. Unless you need to subdue the person like a police officer, then yes, you need to be able to do the rest of this stuff.
But again, the gi helps in that case because everywhere wears clothes. You get a pant. There's some grips of like that neon belly with the pant and the lapel. Yeah. It's like, oh god, I'm stuck.
Now, what's your stance? Because there's that. I hate this debate, but let's see. No gi is better for self-defense. No gi is better for self-defense. What do you think?
I think there's an inherent advantage on the situation of what is going on. So like, I tell people, no gi's probably your better bet if you're native. They're like, why? Because natives don't like wearing clothes when they fight. They're like, why is that? Like, watch too much hockey, bro. Okay, nobody grabs a sleeve and starts swinging. So that's happened too much to people. So like, he'll probably take his shirt off. In that case, everyone has a body, so you can manipulate the body. No gi is going to help you the most with that, because with the gi, you're really demanding that they wear, the pants work, or say he's wearing shorts and you go to grab it. I'm not saying it won't work, but if I know how to control the thing you can't take off, like your body, then I have a better sense of how to control you. Yeah. And then obviously when you get in, the clothes are just leverage points, like the pants and everything are just way more leverage, but understanding to get into position and holding them down without it is going to give you a lot more. So
my approach, one, where do you live and do people wear clothes? The other one is, I think for smaller people, gi is probably better, but you need to be able to approach it with, like, I like the Marcelo Garcia, like, I do things that I can do in both, right? So overhooks. The wrestling aspect is super important regardless, but the reality is if you're a smaller person, you're not going to be able to always manhandle, so using the clothes to your advantage. So there's, like, a lot of factors. I think even Danaher was saying, like, start in gi, because it's more complex in many ways, and then once you're blue or purple, then you can start really focusing on the no-gi once you have body awareness. Because like if you don't have body awareness, doing no-gi is really hard.
Yeah, because you'll invert a lot, you'll run and turn, and you'll have to kind of have a sense of where your opponent is constantly. Wrestling's really good for that too. I just I always just, when people make the argument, I just go like, well, I like doing all of it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me. If I showed up and like to jiu-jitsu and they were like, oh, sorry, man, it's judo today. I'd be like, oh, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I mean, I prefer gi because I'm lazy.
Yeah, no, you could definitely chill out way more. Because like it just.
Also, my leg lock game still sucks. I have not put in the time to develop that. My strategy is just don't get put in leg locks and get on top or something, or play with it. But I find like just more athletic people are drawn towards no-gi because a lot of people hate the hindrance.
You could be so athletic in no-gi.
And I just don't have the energy to keep up.
Oh yeah, like I
with
told you today with
guys.
Oguzhan. Oguzhan's like 145, 150, and I'm like 180 right now, trying not to be fat. But like I have like 30, 20 pounds on him, and I can only sub him twice. I've been in jiu-jitsu for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he just had...
Oh, there's people like that.
Yeah, he just had athletic ability, good timing.
Yeah.
Obviously, he wrestled at a high
There's
level.
a couple guys in this gym who are just so... There's one of the white belts who's like this tiny, like 130. And if I'm tired or I'm lazy and he goes 100%, it's like he'll pass because I can't keep up. He won't submit me, but I'm just like...
Two things. Cardio and strength are skills. You have to develop them, but you can have more talent in them, like more than other people. You're just more skilled. Like some of the guys I work with, they're like, "Man, how's your neck so big? What do you do? What do you do for weights?" Like nothing, dude. I grew up on a farm. I've carried 10,000 hay bales and water buckets my entire life. I just have traps. Yeah. So
if you do manual labor starting young and you don't destroy your body doing it, you will be a very hard person to deal with.
Definitely, for sure. So
now,
I always just say, do everything because there'll always be pieces there you can take. Yeah. And you'll develop. I just follow martial arts the way Bruce Lee would say. It's an expression of who you are. Yeah. So find the pieces that express who you are. Yeah. And even what Bibiano was telling me with the grips, like he says no grips are permanent. Yeah. You let go, you go to different ones all the time.
Oh yeah, I had a white belt break my finger because they couldn't break my grip and they went so ham.
Yeah. So what's the point of that, right? Just
and then my finger, like as I'm pulling out, it got wrapped up in the gi, and it's to this day like it gives me problems.
Yeah. And then you roll with guys like Philippe up at Van North End there, and he just arm crushes you or wrist
he's
locks
so
you.
big. That guy. That guy's so good and so big. It's like
that's the thing too. Some people, I've refused to roll with people who are heavyweights anymore. Yeah. And it's like trying to find a very nice way to do it.
I don't want to die.
Just to say it. Because even in this gym, I was rolling with a guy, super nice guy, didn't do anything to me. Yeah. But he just got heavy in a moment and broke my ribs. Yeah. And I'm like, and I had to cancel my fight and all this stuff. And I'm like, no one tried to hurt me. I was just rolling with people.
It's just physics.
I was putting too much plates on.
Or biology.
Like I was trying to do a bench press and I put like 6 plates on.
Yeah, I've done that with big people where I have the skill, but sometimes I try to wrestle them. Yeah. And I pull a muscle or something, and it's like,
you got to find that balance of hurting yourself. And with that balance is martial arts. So I try to learn the most martial arts I can. So I have like a million tricks to get big guys off me now. Yeah, so I had to learn that lesson. Broken ribs.
Don't let them get on you in the first place.
Well, even when they're on you, how do I do this without?
I have that teaching self-defense to a lot of smaller people. Like, what do? I'm like, there is a certain point where they're just too big. And you really need to get the mentality is don't get there, don't get there, don't get there, don't get there, don't get there.
Frames and things in the way to stop it.
Yeah, but even objectively, like a 90-pound girl with no muscle versus like a 250-pound monster is in big trouble. Their only option is to play the animalistic route. Unless their skill is really high, and even then, they're probably screwed. Is the animalistic route of just make it so not worth it for these people. They are either going to knock you out. Or they're just going to, if they're not a psycho or like a cartel person, they're going to realize this is not worth it for me. Yeah. And then you'll get messed up probably. Sorry, it's just the nature of violence and assholes. But that's the root sometimes.
That's like the hard truth I teach anybody with mount escapes. Yeah. They're like, well, how do I not get hit? And I'm like, too late. You messed up. Yeah. So long ago.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I just made a shift. I think I got it from... Rob Bernacki. It's just don't get there. If you start with the mentality of how do I get out of it versus I'm not going to get there, it actually, especially early on, it creates a different reaction in your nervous system throughout the time. And I think that's the best advice I've gotten for that because like Krav, I teach Krav, I teach wrestling, and it's very basic jiu-jitsu because I find a lot of jiu-jitsu's sports now and it's not conducive to self-defense.
I stick with the old stuff. That's why I love being under Bibi. Bibi doesn't come with me with some new stuff. Yeah. Stuff he found in the favela.
But I know a large percentage of my students don't like grappling. But I've told people you need a blue belt in jiu-jitsu or equivalent outside of Krav if you want a Krav black belt from me. Not because I don't think you have a good grappling skill from me, because you will if you're training with me for 10 years. But if you've never played with people who really know how to grapple, you're going to get overwhelmed one time.
I think I came in here early one day and I just won like the provincial brown belt and the absolute brown belt. And you're like, anybody wants to roll with
Go.
I was like, you sure? Everybody looks pretty new here.
Yeah.
But all right,
There's a resistance from most of my Krav students to do grappling. Because when in the novice class, when I teach wrestling or grappling, they're like, this is so hard. I'm like, yep. Exactly.
And it drains you. You got to learn to be cool.
Yeah.
That's why I like Ogazon's like that. If I get him on the cage, he just chills for seconds, looking for the counters. You know, like you could try to pick him up and dump him, but he'd probably shift his weight a bit. And like you got to be really crafty, so you can't just I'll be big and throw him.
And I let them know. I'm like, guys, I'm a gatekeeper grappler. So if I can smash you, there are monsters out there.
I taught to all my I remember teaching up north. That's when I was like purple belt, teaching at the YMCA, just because you need partners, right? Yeah, teaching for free. And I tell them, like, everyone be like, man, I just don't know if I'm going to be as good as you. It's like, yeah, don't worry, man. I know like 5 guys right now who could walk through that door and just destroy me right now. Like, for whatever reason, Bibby walked through the door, I'd be like, well, I'm done. Yeah. Like, you could put up a really good fight, but you got to develop and to dedicate so much time and skill to get better than somebody. Yeah. That's really the hard part. That's why I tell everyone, just enjoy training. Just enjoy your partners, have fun with what you do, and help them get better, because like you'll never be able to beat everybody. Like Galvao's gonna get beaten one day,
and if you are, you will lose eventually.
Like Cyborg. That's why the argument between like Cyborg and Galvao, like people had this, who's better. Or I always thought
which Cyborg, because there's like a million of them.
The jiu-jitsu, right? Cyborg
Abreu or something.
Butchering his name.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, sir.
Florida.
Because if he walked through the door,
that's a guy who won on Raw Talent early on. He lived in the jungles and showed up periodically to train. He's just a monster.
Yeah, crazy.
I watched him win that $40,000 in that super fight bracket.
The Texas one? Or?
No, like a while ago in the Worlds I was at.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they did. He won $40,000. Just walked through everyone. Well, didn't walk through everyone.
But you see, then but then Gordon showed up and just walked through him. Like walked through him.
Yeah. On that, do you think? Because I feel like Galvao is going to somehow back out of that fight, him and Gordon.
The thing about old school martial arts is you protect your shine. Yeah. Because if you look in the history books, like...
for those who don't know, Gordon Ryan won the ADCC champ last year, and then that means the next ADC you fight the previous champ, which was Galvao. And there's a lot of animosity, and most people think Gordon Ryan's going to win that, and they keep wanting to get a fight before. Well, Gordon Ryan does, and it's just not happening. And I'm like, if it doesn't happen at the ADCC, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, because that's kind of like that, like WBC, like the number one contender, no matter what, got to fight him. It's like kind of the ADCCs would be that, but you kind of protect your legacy. You protect your shine. Some people do that. I've never believed in protecting my shine. I always wanted to be somebody who fought, because that's my culture. Like we weren't, There's no native tribe that ever say they won, but we still fought, and and that's when I took that fight. When I started, I want to be somebody who fought. Now I'm smarter and go, do I need to fight? Because I've already fought. I fought big fights, I've won titles, and I've done enough to make my little ego be happy. Now I'm just working on getting my black belt and being a good teacher, because a lot of people got me here. I didn't
Teaching is hard too.
It's very hard, but it's very rewarding, and it's fun because you get a lot of. I find you just get friends. And everyone's really cool, and you get to show them fun tricks, and they show. I like the glow in a grown man's eyes when they're like stuck in side control, and then you just show them this, like the sweep and how to get there through the reactions. They're like, "Oh, that's so easy." I'm like, "Told you, jiu-jitsu's easy." So
once you get over the mental block of what the hell am I doing?
It's jiu-jitsu's a lot of fun. Some people take it to the ego, like they show up and this is my time to just run over people, and I go back into the world, and I'm happy with myself.
Well, on that ego, it's like if you're always the athlete who runs through everyone. It's actually the responsibility of the coach to check their ego, and a lot of time they don't.
Yeah, well, right? Who's Galvao's coach? Who's Gordon's coach, really?
Now, I check my ego because I know I'm small, I'm not athletic, I can't go crazy with a lot of people, so I take that chill for jiu-jitsu.
Bibby will do that to me. Bibby people see me, we're like, "Oh, you big, you're athletic," and he's like, "Okay, no, he won't let me have any little guys." He'd be like, "You roll the Hinaldo I was rolling with, but he's like 220 right now, brown belt too, right?" And he's just like, I was like, "This is gonna suck." And that's just what it is, man.
Yeah.
He's got to go.
Like, by little guys, just white belts or just in general?
Well, one of them was like, one guy I wanted to grapple, but I couldn't. He's 18-year-old, and he's
Yeah.
green, he's athletic shit. And I'm like, I can, because everyone was on. I'm like, I think I could deal with it.
You got to check his ego.
I could chill, but he was rolling other guys who are more
Yeah.
his size that are good too. So it wasn't like he wasn't getting a free pass.
Yeah.
But I was trying to get a rest round to where I know I could technique my way to a breather for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, go back to that guy who's giving you a super hard time that you can't just control and hold down. And of course, again, I can tell, like, people really don't understand what real love is. Love is somebody pushing you and making you be better, even if you don't want to. Because I was dying. Like, I threw up in the 5th round in front of, like, my hero, which is Bibiano, and my coach. And he was, like, mad at me. Before he left, he'd give me a hug.
Don't puke on the mat.
Well, no, I didn't. But, like, before, he didn't give me a hug, say, good job today. I'll see you next week. You'll be good. He literally smacked me in the back of the head, said, no more puke.
Yeah.
But
I tell him you puke, you clean it up.
Yeah, of course. That's unwritten. That's not even, I feel like it should be a written and an unwritten rule. It's just what it is.
And if you puke on the mats, I'm gonna rub you in a little bit. No,
definitely clean it yourself. Yeah. Definitely clean it yourself. But anyways, but it's like, I'm even trying to break with these really good guys, and Bibi's like, let's move, let's go. Like, you got to be pushed, or you just won't ever grow.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you could talk about culture a lot. Especially in the early days of fighting. Now it's different here because it was illegal, so a lot of the fights were on the native territory. Did you
the reservation?
The reservations, yeah. Did you have any issues because you're native or anything like that?
Well, I did, just out of geography. Like, if people, if this is an international podcast,
yes. Well, it is. It goes out international. Who listens is a different story.
In Canada, they didn't just like. I guess in North America in general, but they just didn't say like, "Oh, this is where you live." Yeah. Okay, cool. This will just be your spot. We're taking the rest.
Yeah,
which is kind of what they did. But then they moved everybody to a spot of their liking.
Yeah,
that's why the Black Hills is such a big deal in the States, because they found gold. And they were like, "Oh shit, get out of here, you bunch of redskins." Yeah. So it's not even like an argument. That was the plan. Canada for sure. They moved everybody away from population areas. Just basically being racist. We don't want the natives near the white towns. Or the good Canadian towns, as they would say in Canada. Canada doesn't like to say white people; they like to be like good Canadians, or to quote the old Prime Minister, old stock Canadians.
Which one?
Harper.
Yeah,
he really coined that one. It's terrible. But anyways, so they got moved off. So I had to drive an hour to Prince George to train, and then I drive an hour back home for an hour of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I usually stay longer and just work on stuff. But I would just do that and just grind and go and just do. And then I'd have a bag. I would try to teach anywhere I could, because you need to make your own partners. Yeah. And so when I started, it was just my own little passion. Yeah. Well, when I first started, I was in university, so I could go twice a week. But I wasn't really into it to a point. Like, I had my fights. I felt like I proved myself. Lost those 2 fights. So. But I was just training for the joy of it and wanting to get better and enjoying my coach. Like, I've really adapted to the style now that I can choose now. I only like training with people I like. Yeah. If you don't like me, I'm like, we do not need to spend time together.
Yeah, well, that's I think a general life rule.
Yeah,
if you don't like people, you don't need to be around.
But some people have that in dojos, man. They just like each other, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I gotta get out of here.
Well, I think that if in a dojo scenario, if there's someone like the coach really needs to reel that in, like, fast, because if you allow that kind of stuff to go on, then it's just going to turn into the culture of the gym. Yeah. Versus if it's like, no, like. And, that can get an awkward where it may end up being someone's got to go. But it is the way it is.
Change your shit. Or you literally do what they do to kids. Hey, we're going to sit in the corner. We're going to have a talk.
I just make them do burpees.
Yeah, are you going to chat? Or I believe in that. People don't believe in that. But that does come from the military. Because together suffering. Yeah. Really, well, I think for children, it's good still because they need to learn consequences of actions can affect other people. With adults, I don't do group punishment because of ego and just life. They're not going to put up with it in civilian world, and they're just going to leave. So I tend to do as adults. Now, if you build up the culture, like here, I'm not running military style classes. It's not going to fly. But if I was in another country, in that case, you're basically breaking people to be killers.
Yeah. Well, not even. It's more. A lot of it is to do with the discipline.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's in life or death, you just have to be like. I never really grew up in a military culture, but when you go out in the middle of the woods and you're out there for 4 days, and you're just gonna have an argument with the guy who's knowing where we're going and what we're doing, like, you just gotta fall in line.
You don't want to be stuck in the woods with someone you hate.
Just fall in line. When I was a kid, I remember there were still stories of people just taking people in the woods and never came back. Yeah, because they did something fucked up, like beat his wife with an axe handle or something.
Now that is that is an issue in Canada, is the violence in the Native communities.
Yeah, but that's because, honestly, that's because of the government. It's a created.
And what? So
violence.
Explain.
Well, it's a created violence because, like, well, first there were good homes, like
Yeah.
you know, everyone was good. They had their own spot. They would, you know, we had our own territory. We traveled to the winter community and your summer spot to fish and just kind of really the one with the land, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes, I am Native American. And out of that, the government wrecked it, kind of like how they did with the killing of the buffalo in America.
Yeah.
They kind of took away that lifestyle, so they wrecked it by their version of helping with the residential school. So they took their kids.
Well, to be honest, I think that's the church's version of helping.
Well, because the government hired the church to administer and do all that.
Well, I you know, I'm a political guy. I don't know. And I find when people look at it, you know, Natives are going to look at it one way and then other people are going to look at another. I suspect it was the church lobbying some high up guy, and then, you know, when like
because
something.
the Indian Act was written by a bunch of drunk white guys
Yeah.
in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And it affected my little
That's
community.
one of the most interesting parts of Canada. They were hammered in the first like 50 years, all the like. But anyways,
it's a cool party for them. I don't want to hate on Jean Cartier having a vodka while doing business, but just it created a lot of real bad problems.
Yeah.
And so they had this system, and they took all these kids away, and then they just weren't. Never mind not learning your language and all this really cool stuff that gets brought up in like the hot button stuff, but you just forget who your parent is.
Yeah.
You just don't know your dad.
Yeah.
I see him like 3-4 months of the year.
Yeah.
And then and it'd be okay if it was like a real boarding school. It took care of you, taught you discipline.
Yeah.
But no, they just got abused, beat up, and they died, and they got sad, and they got sexually abused, and out of that, just that kind of trauma, which everybody can, you know, because everyone can like come down to with trauma. That trauma takes about like 10 generations to get rid of. Yeah. And I'm generation 2 in that process because my grandma went to residential school in Kamloops, and my dad went to day Christian school. Yeah. So like that trauma creates all these things because you have this distance with like somebody where you don't have the true love in a way, that real connection deep. Like, because I know for a fact I call my mother right now. My mom would chat me about whatever. Hey, mom, found a great spaghetti spot. My mom would talk with me because I knew my mom lived and spent all my time with
her. I never thought of it this way. Is that, you know, it took the parents away, and it's not specific to that situation in Canada. It's a common cultural manipulation. Like Mao did it in China, Stalin did it. People are trying to do it in America now, actually, where they disintegrate the family unit, and you know, like there's a lot of people going back to homeschooling now because they're like, what the hell are you teaching my kid? And I think as long as you're not an abusive, if you're a parent who cares enough about their kid that they don't want to get brainwashed, regardless of what you believe, we won't get into that yet. It's so important. The parents, the ones who care, know their kids best, right? And regardless of whether you believe their beliefs or not, the family unit to some degree is super important. And when society, whether it be to natives or anyone, takes that away, you get historically not very good situations.
No, you get like I worked with like troubled youth and had to help with like getting kids taken out because of my martial arts background and stuff like that. Just, you know, I would be able to be like, they give me the kids that were really violent. Yeah. And it's weird because he's like, this kid's like 50 pounds. You're scared of him, and they just don't want to be in that scared moment of like talking to the cops. Well, why did you get in a fight with a teenager? Yeah. And I'm like, well, he attacked me first. Yeah. And he needs to learn that people, especially in my culture, I'm kind of offshooting a bit. Yeah. But it's like
there is no offshooting.
Well, I am in this case because we're gonna stick with it. But it's like I need this kid to learn because I know he's not gonna go get a wicked job, jump into normal Canadian society. Yeah. He's probably going to go back and try to live in poverty. Yeah. I need him to understand that, hey, man, you can't just talk shit about this guy's NHL game and how much of a pussy he is because that guy might just get up and hit you with a coffee can. Yeah. He don't care. Yeah. He'd go back to jail. So you have to understand, like, you can't push people because for the regular world, they're like, you can't hit me. And I'm like, I very can hit you. Yeah. There's consequences after. Don't get me wrong. Cops will figure it out, but you still have to live through me grabbing a ladder and smashing you like it's TLC 3. Yeah. And that's what I kind of had the kids to understand because that's where we grow up. That's that existence. But anyways, that existence was grown because, you know, the kids, you couldn't meet your parents and your parents are super depressed because, you know, part of being a parent in my culture and literally in my culture is teaching your kids how to survive in the woods and all that stuff. Yeah. And that's very much a mentorship program. It's not school. Yeah. It's like just how'd you learn all that? I hung out with my dad all the time and my dad showed me how to do all that. Yeah. You know, he taught me math or whatever it is, which always makes me laugh when people talk shit on the on homeschooling's fine. You just have to socialize your kids.
Yeah, super important. Socialize your kids somehow.
Take them. You got to go to a martial arts class, a sport, or go to piano or whatever, some type of after school activities. Yeah, because the socializing is what makes homeschool kids bad. Yeah, that's the only thing. But because rich people do it all the time. Yeah, like, I got a super awesome tutor.
They turn out sometimes good, but it's basically they get access to the best education possible. Because I don't believe everyone should be a teacher. Just because you want to be a teacher doesn't mean
it's a skill.
Yeah, with the internet now, like there is a potential to allow the best people in the world to teach a larger group of people. Yeah. And it's just I feel too many people get into teaching for the wrong reasons. And I had a lot of shitty teachers. I'm one of those kids who, my talents were squandered in the public school system because I was the loudmouth kid who was intelligent. I didn't play by the rules, but I got decent grades. Not great, not good enough that people
enough
are like,
to be left alone.
But they're like, we don't know what to do with this kid because he's obviously smart, but he doesn't want to play by the rules. Mm-hmm. He doesn't cause enough trouble that we can be like, kick him out. But he's annoying because I challenged him intellectually. Like, I remember I had an English teacher. I'm like, what is the educational value of the thing that you're making us do right now? Because I knew it was a babysitting thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, really, what in your teacher manual? Why are we doing this?
Or your education.
And they're just like, shut up and do your work. And I'm like, I could have been so much more. But that's, I think, to the point about mentorship you're making. I'm learning now, like I didn't have mentors growing up at all. And because I've developed, you know me, my personality, a lot of people find me difficult, but I'm
one of those guys too, don't worry.
Yeah, I really think it's like, you need good mentors, whether it be ideally parents, but in our world, that's not always possible. So just the opportunity, because the school systems here at least have taken away teachers' mentorship, either because they don't want to, or they're not allowed to, or they can't interfere, or they're just not skilled enough as human beings.
Or people freak out about getting too close to an adult.
Yeah.
Well, there's the whole that thing. No, just seeming that way. I made fun of one of the guys I used to teach, Jesse. He was in the high school. Because the high school team, again, anybody could join.
Just remember, no pee-pee touch.
None of that. I was like, this is his boundaries. But no, he was this ginger kid, good-looking kid, really awesome. And, like, he didn't have anyone to wrestle with because he's a big, strong grade 12 kid just throwing everybody. So I'd wrestle with him during school. And I always made fun of him. I'm like, this would never happen if you were a girl.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. I was like, what do you mean? I couldn't hang out with, like, an 18-year-old ginger athletic specimen kid because we would go have a hamburger after or something like that. I was like, that wouldn't be allowed.
Meter stick distance if it's a girl. 2 meter sticks.
That wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
So that's why I actually felt bad for a lot of the girls that were on that wrestling team because they wanted to be really good. And I'm like, I don't think I'm allowed to wrestle you right now. Like,
now, other than the physical differences, obviously the coach issue is there's a thing is that you have to just treat them like a member of the team.
Oh yeah,
right. I'm not going to get into the whole gender stuff, but
I'm native, man. I believe in the two spirit system. I'm just like, no, you're still a human being to begin with.
Oh no, not that. I mean, as the competitive, taking people who were men who transition, then they destroy the whole women's team. Like that I have an issue with.
I do have an issue because that's not safe.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah,
right?
and I just go like, well, I'm here to protect people. It's martial arts. Yeah. We protect people foremost. Yeah. There is competitive fighting. Yeah. But at your heart, you should be protecting people, and I don't think that's okay.
Yeah, but that's why I see, like, when I train with girls, obviously you have to make sure they're comfortable, but I just treat them like anybody else, and I just assess men or women, how strong are they, how much resistant. There is a girl who in the community jiu-jitsu who's really good. She's a purple belt now. I'm not going to drop names.
There's a few.
And she is really aggressive. You might know who it is. And there was like, John, why are you going so hard with me? I'm like, because you're going hard. Like, I actually have to try. Man. Like, you're trying to kill me. You're trying to take me out. So I'm going to go hard. But I base it, whether you're a man or a woman, based on how much resistance are you giving me. To me, I'm just training with the person. And then, I'm sorry, ladies, in grappling, you might actually accidentally have your chest touch. As a guy, like not talking about grabbing, that's inappropriate. No. But just the transitioning position and your hand ends up there. And my approach, I just ignore it. Because if you don't make a big deal out of it, and they don't make a big deal out of it, it's not a big deal.
I've always just said it's combatives.
Yeah.
Like if I'm gonna fight and I grab your boob, well, I'm an idiot because my hand's on your chest. You'll take advantage.
Yeah, well, you take it off, but it's like, oh, I swept them.
No,
and
I take advantage of that position.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't be here. You know, like kind of stuff like that. It's just I'm using my body as a weapon. It's not something that So just I've always seen it that way. And if I'm training again, I train all my people to be combative blue belts. I'm like, if somebody jumps you in the street, I want you to have skill sets to deal with that scenario.
Yeah.
And that's going to be part of that scenario. Now, obviously, there is inappropriate, but
that line's easy. There is definitely inappropriate.
That line is easy to find.
Yeah. Do they look very uncomfortable? Other than you're squishing them, that's different. But if you're intuitive, you can tell. Like, oh,
yeah. Like unfortunately for me, with the residential system, like that's one of the biggest issues. Was a lot of kids came back sexually abused to parents who didn't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, I think nobody knew how to deal with that in the past. It's only more recent.
Well, even me as a kid, like I was sexually abused, and I understand it, and I feel that sense with people, and I go like, "Oh, you're not cool." Yeah. One girl I taught, she didn't want to be touched by men at all, and I had to really work with her because I'm like, I understand that this is a phobia or something that's real traumatic, and I have empathy with you, but what I want to teach you is how not to be touched. Yeah. So we do need to unfortunately touch. Yeah. And work together as best we can. And I got her through some stuff, and she kind of made bounds for herself. Yeah. But it was like, bear in mind, this is going to help you have people not be in your space. Yeah.
I've definitely had that. Like my personality issues, I struggle teaching those kind of people. And for me personally, I usually say, listen, I think you need to work with a therapist first that can help you.
You got to break through some lines first.
CBT is a really good form of that. But I wish more therapists would work with martial artists and work with schools. I've had situations where on my end, they're making crazy good progress. Mm-hmm. Their technique is coming along. They're getting used to training with different people. Yeah. And they all of a sudden, outside of class, not even in class, apparently they had some anxiety attack and the therapist like, stop training. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Some of these therapists, I'm sorry, are cowards.
No, I have anxiety and depression too. I need to train.
Yeah.
I fought today. Like I trained today. I want to be in good shape, but I feel great. Yeah. Like I'm good. I'm fine. Because it's like the level of like literally dealing with somebody in front of you trying to kick you in the face, and someone just looking at you, talking to you. It's like this is not the same. Yeah. Like, the threat level is just not here.
Yeah. On that, I mean, actually, well, I've always dealt with depression, but I'm actually learning because of COVID. I actually have like really bad social anxiety. Oh, wow. I don't like that. It doesn't seem like it, and a lot of my students would be shocked because I'm in my element here. Yeah. But like I'm realizing I don't deal with people like well, and it's probably to do with anxiety, right? And I unfortunately like the statement as an outright truism, just be physical and stay healthy will cure your depression, is actually not true for everybody. And unfortunately, I am one of those people that being physical doesn't fix the problem. It's through a long journey and some medication. And for me, I'm not on it anymore. That actually helped with that. From a lot of people, being physical, though, and staying healthy will solve the problem a lot of the time. But you also have to learn the mental coping skills to deal with it. Now, so what I was saying, like that therapists are cowards, is like a lot of doctors. Have you ever been through rehab?
No, I've never had a good therapist. They've always kind of just wanted to talk it out.
They don't push the boundaries enough.
And I just never came out of it with what do I need to do.
Yeah. They're not allowed to tell you what to do.
Like, give me a plan as to how to get this figured out.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I've read enough reading about, like, mental issues. Like, people have phobias of spiders, and they'll say, hey, they'll, like...
exposure therapy.
Yeah, they're like, in that room over there is a spider.
Yeah.
We're safe in this room. Yeah. And eventually you get close to where, like, hey, it's in the box. It's in the room. You get to the box. There's a spider there. You open it. Oh, there's a spider.
Exposure therapy works.
Because you get to learn how to control the environment. That's why one of the reasons I got into martial arts is control of violence. I can control violence. In my background, violence was something everyone would just threaten you with to begin with. So understanding how to control the violence and then using that lesson to be like, hey, well, if they fight me, I know how to deal with that. And then you learn how to control the violence verbally. Yeah. And then it starts.
I suck. I just play the crazy card. If I realize they can out crazy me, I'm gone already.
I usually just play the laissez-faire. Like, well, we could fight if you want. I don't want to because I'd rather talk this out with you. And then they kind of, it's like you ask, they don't, because when you get challenged to a fight, it's aggressive, you know? You're getting called a name and there's some kind of aggressive posturing. But if someone's like just really chill and they're like, well, we'll fight if you want, if that's what's really going to make you feel better. Yeah. And then they kind of go like, does it get, I don't know. It's like, it's Jedi stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's personality. Like, as I said, like, I'm only realizing this year, like, oh shit, I actually have severe social anxiety in dealing with social situations. It's always a hard hit to take, and I'm like, I have a tendency, and now avoidance is a good thing. Like, I probably, even in my youth, could have been in a lot worse situations. But I always recognize, I just pissed that person off, and they're not a nice person. I'm going to leave now. But I just don't put myself in situations that I'm going to be. And that's one strategy. But the more you go out and all over the place, it's like, oh, no, maybe I'm going to really have to deal with this issue in order to interact with people in a way that's likable.
Yeah, I don't know if I do any good job at it at all.
Yeah.
But I just know that it's part of me, and I just have to be happy as I can be.
Yeah.
Like, Bibi hates it.
Yeah.
Because what I do when I get anxious, I start to just have fun.
Yeah.
And it's not serious enough.
Yeah.
We're fighting. Let's go. Be serious. Focus. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Kill each other.
He lives on a different level though. Champions live on a different.
Oh, he's not
realm.
just a champion.
Yeah, they live in a different realm. Like he had a speech to us before training. He's like, "You're here. You submit. You tap. No shame. In a fight, you tap. It's shame."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, "Oh, that's rough."
Yeah. Life or death. It's very different. If you take that life or death mentality into the ring, it will actually. Well, it can help and hinder your performance. If you have the skill and you're calm enough, but you're like, for those about to die, we salute you. It can really help you. But if you go in like blindly swinging, fuck this, you're gonna lose if the guy has much more control over themselves.
Mike Tyson's coach said it best actually, Customato, where he said it's like fire. You know, if you control it, it'll cook your food, it'll warm your house. But if you let it go out of control, it'll burn your whole house down. Yeah. And that's the best way I always describe that kind of feeling. But I have been too laissez-faire. When I fought Daniel for the title last time, I was just too chill. Too chill. Should have been more get in his face, let's get into a fight, and then after some exchanges, then kind of chill and relax, right? But
that's the psychology of fighting. Like, when I did World Masters, I made a mistake, and I should have made it to the podium, but I made a mistake that I regret to this day. But whatever, I've learned from it. But
as long as you learn.
But the thing that I really learned is that in competition up until that point, was competing not to lose rather than
stalling
rather than competing to win. And it is a very common problem.
I always roll to win. That's always been my problem. Like I always look for a sub. I've never, unless I'm chilling with you, like you're saying, rolling with women, if I'm way stronger than you, I'm gonna let you have time to figure something out. But if we're kind of the same size and we're just go, like today I was rolling lows on, I'm gonna get you as soon as I can, and I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get rid of this position. I'm gonna get at you. Because I have too many like native heroes, you know, like Crazy Horse, all those dudes were just like, let's just win.
A Crazy Horse American, right?
Yeah, he was a Sioux. Yeah, he was crazy as shit, man. Yeah,
so that's something that I find frustrating personally as a non-native, but in general, it's just people don't understand context. Like I find in Canada, like if I'm talking to a non-native in Canada, they're gonna talk about natives in Canada like they're talking about the natives in the States, right? And I'm like, they're different, right?
Just don't call out the Blackfoot. They're the same.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the confusion is there's so many
they're
tribes.
actually the reason why we have the J Treaty.
Yeah. What is the J Treaty?
Well, I got my tattoo work here is Navajo. So my part of being carrier, we're cousins with the Navajo. Yeah. Like we have kind of the same language, which is crazy. Yeah. So I can
the confusing one.
So, I love that language. Anyways, but I can go visit them. I can cross the border land. Flight, they still freak out because of terrorism. But I can cross the border with just my status card, and I'm going to visit. And with the Blackfoot, they live basically Alberta and North Dakota.
I guess I don't know.
No, that's
South Dakota, Idaho.
With Alberta and all that. But anyways, they can cross because they have families. They literally like, oh, my cousin lives just over there, but there's this invisible international border. Yeah. So they have the thing that's the J Treaty, which is you can pass through back and forth, and you can work. I can work in America. I can get my card and everything, and do all that stuff. Yeah. And that's just one of the many intricacies of the country that just people don't understand.
It's confusing as hell. Like for example, is like we just loosely discussed the residential schools.
Well, they couldn't prove who was Blackfoot Canadian, who was Blackfoot American, legitimately, right?
Yeah, that's true. Like so, for example, like the way the American treated up until the residential schools in Canada, the way Canada dealt with natives was very different than the way America, in the sense like the original people coming to Canada actually created a whole new band, the Métis, and they worked quite well together until as I say, I really think it's the church's influence came in, and industrialization, and they wanted to modernize everything. Versus in the States, there was like active like kill these motherfuckers. Like to be fair, some of the native tribes were very aggressive, but not all of them. and it depends which and where. And I find it, like as a non-native, if we want to discuss this, we need to discuss this honestly on all levels. And especially in Canada, I'm sorry, Canadians have their heads up at the ass about how educated they are and how much they know the world. And I find so many Canadians confuse Canadian history. Granted, it's pretty boring with American history. Like our prime minister talking about guns when he's referencing the States, it's like everyone's like, whoa, you're the prime minister of Canada. Why are you talking about what happened in the States? And I find with native stuff, they're already confusing, but people compound it with what's going on in America and here. Now, with the cross-border thing, it makes it even more confusing.
Yeah, but it also is like with the States, they made the smart move on their opinion. Like if you just want to go, we talk about like the Mongols conquering
everything.
The one that's really sad was Iraq.
Yeah.
They just burned it to the ground, basically. It's super tragic. If that was recent, it'd just be like...
Well, I actually, and some people might find this controversial, but it's coming from Dan Carlin, so leave me alone, is that the whole idea of Islam as a scientific nation, while true, they came up with zero. The Mongols basically wiped out that whole class of Islam.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They've been recovering ever since.
And brutally, yeah. It's really sad. Like that's how I feel for like anyone's from Iraq, because I kind of like always want to find the connection with everybody. Yeah. Like anybody... Nobody got out scot-free. Yeah. Maybe the Brits. I don't know.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, but so I kind of connect to that with that because everybody will connect if we talk heritage with each other. Yeah. Like it's like, oh yeah, so you're Iraq, hey man. I had a situation like that too. Like, but I didn't have the Mongols come and burn us down. It was the white guys. But but it's what it is with the States. They just declared war. Yeah. And people did fight back. That's why they fought back so aggressively because it was like, this is war. Yeah. And that's the although the Comanche and the Apache, they had a nice war with each other. Yeah,
and that's something people bring up is like you do like there's an image of the peace-loving native. Yes. While true for a lot of tribes, is not true for all tribes.
No. Mohawk. There's a reason why they have their own passports.
Yeah. You guys are on your own.
They get their own space because they're like, no, we want our own space. Yeah. We keep our own space. Yeah. The Six Nations is powerful. Baby.
Yeah, like scalping, for example.
White people did that first.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, and the natives start taking it.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Well, it made sense because, natives long, beautiful hair. Yeah. Prove to me you killed a native guy.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And then the natives were like, oh, okay, well, one, they do it to us, but two, the yellow hair. Yeah. It just kind of became a thing, right? Yeah. It's a sad. It's
actually weird that in all cultures everywhere people have this preference towards lighter skin, and I don't know whether that's because of when the globalization started happening, it was white people that were more affluent and more technologically advanced. No, because in some places, like in Asia, lighter skin was considered beauty because it meant you didn't have to work in the fields, and that's got nothing to do with white people.
It's class war.
Yeah, I guess in that sense.
You don't do nothing. Yeah, you must have some kind of situation.
That's why for a time being fat and unhealthy was preferable because it meant you were wealthy, but now it's not a great thing.
You got to be lean.
I mean, it never was a great thing.
Lean and mean. Yeah. But so they just declared war, and then that way they could use the age-old human tradition of divide and conquer. Yeah. So I won this.
It's going on nowadays too.
Yeah, I won this. That's how Russia took the Crimea from Ukraine.
Which was, I just like, everyone should have been like, no. And they're just like, we don't want to go to war. Forget it.
Poor Ukraine. Ukraine always gets the short stick.
Yes, no one really wants to defend them.
I love Ukrainians though. I love their history. I was engaged to a Ukrainian, so I got to force.
Now there's a story.
I got forced to learn more, but after I learned more, I'm like, man, Ukraine just got
it's in the middle of everything.
That's probably why we got together. I'm native, Ukraine. She's had that same kind of Trump. Yeah, but it was. But they got the rough piece of that. But anyways, with Canada, there wasn't really war. There was lots of togetherness and working together
for a long time.
How Canadian we are, right? And British Columbia, especially, because that's why there's treaties now, but they're all modern treaties, which really bite everybody's goat. Yeah. But I'm hoping, I don't think it'll ever happen, but the West Vancouver Treaty, whenever that comes around, is going to be ridiculous because there's $1 million homes on native land.
How's that going to work?
How's it going to work? Yeah, because I would say, if I was chief, I would argue till I died to be like, you know what, you can just keep it all, but I would love to do the property tax. That's all I want. Not even previous property tax, starting after this treaty. Yeah. So like when you go through your bills at night and you go, oh, we got to pay the property tax for my $1 million home in West Vancouver.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Michael
smart decision.
Bublé can give me some money.
Well, because it's like in New Zealand. Like I'm not an expert in New Zealand, but my understanding,
Maori brothers.
Yeah, they basically said to the natives, yeah, we didn't handle it so well. Here's all of your money. You're on your own. And apparently a lot of them have done very well because once they realized this, hand in, hand out, hand in, hand out, hand in, and they said, no, you're responsible for yourself. For most part, it turned out pretty good, right? Yeah, now, that's not always going to be the case.
Oh, there's a sadness. Like a friend of mine's from New Zealand. She said there was like this beautiful golf course and it got handed back to the Maori and it was just destroyed.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm not saying I love golf or anything, but they mismanaged that gold mine of this beautiful golf course. Like Japanese dudes are all going to come down. And if they just managed it properly, it would work. Native culture is big on this, and I hate it. Yeah. Band politics is bullshit because you get somebody who can just bully, manipulate people, and have no education whatsoever. Talking to gold mining companies on, hey, so you guys want a percentage, whatever. Like I was at band meetings because as a member you can go to the meetings and yell and scream at each other. Yeah. And I've always said, like, no, just do a property tax. Tell them they can have it all, but I want every log leaving that territory. We get $10 or whatever the heck.
Then you sit back and rake it in. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
Obviously, you want certain rights, like
hunting. Is going to be a thing.
Yeah, like that.
Because to this day, like they could take everything away from me, all my money, and say you're done. I'm allowed through my rights to have my rifle, and I can go live in the woods.
Yeah, no, that's because I hunt too, right?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely familiar with what the rules are for natives in Canada with regards to hunting.
It's basically 24/7. You can just hunt. Yeah. Because you remember it's your right to live. That's why it was argued for in every different treaty and every sat down. Every native dude, every old native dude with his wife was like, we need to hunt.
Yeah. Now, see, here's my issue with that. I 100% agree if you're subsistence living. But I've been out hunting, and I see natives, they're not subsistence living.
Some do, some don't.
Yeah, and there is a theory, there's a couple theories as to why the buck population is like scattering and the elk population in BC is scattering. One of them is that...
caribou, I hate.
Oh, yeah.
Elk.
There's one idea that... And based on what I've seen, it could be true is that some natives are overhunting and not managing the population. Another theory is the cougars are not being hunted enough and are taking out stuff. Because like every time I go out and everyone I talk to is like it's getting harder and harder to hunt in BC. And the other one is that the BC's not managing shit properly.
I believe that more because they have way too much authority. Yeah. They can tell you to... See, it makes me laugh. There's an over belief system in native hunting.
Yeah. In what sense?
That we're good at it.
Well, a 300-pound guy's been living off of Cocoa Puffs trying to hunt is not necessarily.
Like my cousin, Kyle, amazing hunter. He's awesome at it. Like I go out, I want to go with him. Like I make a point. Like when you go, and I'm going to jump in the truck with him. But like other people in my community, they're just not good at it.
Yeah,
and it's
because they've lost it, or they just like
it's a skill.
Yeah,
it's a skill. They were taught. I was there. Yeah. You know, my cousins. I don't throw their names out.
You don't.
Well,
do
they won't
it.
listen. Sean and Adrian know better.
Yeah.
They were with me. We went out together. We knew that stuff. It just you got to want to do that.
Well, hunting in BC is fucking hard without a car. Like it's hard.
Yeah, you'd be like my Uncle Ernie. He only wants to do it with horses.
Yeah. Well, actually, horses is better. Like,
but you go out for like a week. I mean, like it's,
well, I go out with my girlfriend, and like. I don't want to strap a fucking elk on my back and hike 10K. I don't want to do that.
This is why it's hard to find some native guys because if you catch something.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can do it, but I know based on my military experience, I'm going to slow everyone down.
It's rough life.
So like common in BC hunting to drive the logging roads and get off and walk for a bit and track something and then go and then back.
Yeah. Some guys got a bougie setup with like, it's on the bed of their truck where they pull the quad off and everything. And it's got a rig and everything. I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah. And I have a Tacoma, so I actually can go pretty hardcore with that thing. I've gone on ATV trail. I've gone on trails. I'm like, I don't know how, because I don't. It's a long bed, so I don't have the short turn. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, this thing is like insane. What you can do with the Tacoma.
Yeah, I gotta get one of those one day.
But it doesn't go into everything. Like ATVs, you definitely, if you really want to go deep, you either need to hoof it or.
It's got a good. Some guys have amazing setups, and I blame conservation because they have too much power and like you can, and then I blame the band offices.
Yeah.
Because if conservation, this is laziness. Conservation can be like, oh hey, I saw native guy A shoot that moose.
Yeah.
Probably shot a cow, and I would punch him out for that, which I've done before.
Why is that?
You need more moose, dude. You can't kill the cow moose. So what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like You know, I always tell him, like I literally got in an argument with somebody, and that's why I punched him out, because I was basically calling him a pussy.
Yeah.
You just going after women, man. That's how you are, whatever. And then we got something explained,
Yeah.
and then like he hit me, and I hit him back.
Yeah. Well, with moose and like, because I listen to Steve Rinella's hunting podcast, and they're talking about like elk population in the States. It was almost wiped out in areas, and yet they thrive because they're doing a different strategy. And what I believe it is, you're allowed to hunt the younger bucks, but not the older ones. While as in BC, you can only hunt the older ones.
They're hard to get. That's why.
Well, first of all, yeah, I've never seen one.
I think I've told you that story once, where I saw like 3 all together, and I just wanted them to come out a little more.
Yeah.
But they could sense my bloodlust, and it was.
I've seen elk, but I haven't seen like a big, immature male.
I can't talk too hard because it's gonna sound like every hunting story you ever heard. It was the biggest elk you ever saw.
And it's just like. Funny enough, during elk season, not elk anywhere. After elk season, we went back up after more deer, 2 or 3 herds. It's
They're
like,
so smart.
Son of a bitch.
They're so smart. That's why you gotta have a native guy, just to be like, for that one little weird spot. Yeah. Just get your kill. But no, see, I blame conservation. I blame bands. Conservation can 100% report someone to the band. Yeah. Just take his name, who he was. He did that. Take it to the band. The band can then progress like charges. Yeah. They can be like, oh, I need you to stop, or will socially get you to stop because it's through the culture. Yeah. Or literally say like, well, we need him to not do it because I really can't. I'm terrible because I don't have the literature, like the legal ramifications to how band offices do it. Yeah. But they have the power to protect the nation. Yeah. So if you got one guy killing everything, he's not protecting the nation. Yeah. So they can tell him, hey man, we're gonna fine you, try to arrest you, find a way. Yeah. Because you're endangering our livelihoods. So there's just laziness between infrastructures. Yeah.
Well, that's my dislike of governments is they just get too big and they get too complicated and there's too much nonsense. I despise it, and I will have a tendency, unless they're like an outright psychopath, I'm going to have a tendency to almost always side with the right government, right of center, because of my belief that that's a better way to govern overall. And I know there's issues with people on the right side. Like, I hate the whole religious integrating into policy and stuff. It drives me nuts, nor should it.
It just doesn't make any sense.
But it's like, I just never see 100 years from now it ever going well if we have big governments everywhere. And I see that's what's being pushed now. And actually, smaller bands and smaller decentralization, and hey, in this region that's how the natives did it forever. And I'm like, you guys should be on board with that. It's just not going to go well.
My band in particular wants to be very independent, so I'm sticking with that. And then there's the Six Nations, like I said, they're right tight to those big city centers like Toronto and Montreal, and they're like, no, we're on our own, we're doing our own thing. So that's why they're smart. They get the UN on their side. They don't go to Canada for shit. The Mohawks, they always go like, but Canada's doing this. They don't go to, the government, like, you guys need to stop. They go right to, like, who's above Canada.
Well, it's a good question. In Canada, like, what's going on? Like, it doesn't matter what political party gets in. They're always like, we're going to help the natives, and then nothing happens.
It's always the joke, because one thing, too, native white people have this fantasy, and I have to say white people, because, like, no matter...
What do you mean, you?
I'm gonna say that hard, looking right at you.
As he's white as fuck.
Me? No way, man. Wait for the sun to come, baby.
Which actually confuses a lot of people.
Well, there's Crazy Horse was actually very light skinned. Yeah. And he's like the native of all natives, right? So, but it just doesn't matter. Any case, but with white people, they just have this kind of sense of belief. I almost forgot what we're talking about on that. Oh, just that.
Canada, and like, why do you think what's going on that the problems aren't like the no water thing?
They believe there's not many of us. They believe we're going away. It's this Hollywood thing, the last Mohican. So they're like, oh, how many natives are there really? And they get how much money? Yeah. That's too much money for that. And
go outside of city centers. You're everywhere.
And then two, the Indian Act is trying to get rid of native people.
Yeah.
Like this argument, it was the way I described it to my ex-fiance, was that I said, hey, when you become Canadian, if you marry me, you're going to be half Ukrainian. Yeah. She looked at me like she had punched me in the face right then and there. No, and I was like, I'm like, well, dude, that's what they say to me. They say, hey, how native are you? Yeah. You can't be 100%. Yeah. You're not full 100 native. Yeah. And I'm like, but I grew up under the mountain. My people have been my entire life. Yeah. How am I not 100% native? Because if they get rid of the natives, they don't got to pay for them in all those government programs. Yeah. That's why there's this blood quantum shit in the States too. They're trying to like, oh, well, you can't be. And so because of that, you kind of move to all these problems where like white people just think we're all going away. Yeah. They're pushed out to the middle of nowhere to do all this stuff. So they're trying to lower that budget
Yeah.
Of like, oh, you need water. It's going to cost this much. It's like, how do we justify that to my prefecture or whatever? You know, or like my running, my riding or whatever. And it's like, well, they need water, you know, and it's like they're way up there. Why are they up there? Well, we put them there.
Yeah.
Obviously, of Nunavut or whatever. If you go further, some places are just like, you couldn't. Nunavut's cool because they didn't even try to reserve that spot. They were just like, well, we don't really want any of this.
It's all nothing up there.
Yeah, so it's really like a native province, which is super cool.
Well, it is now, yeah. But
very much so.
I remember in the 90s when they did that.
Yeah. Well, they did that, but I mean, like, they have their own natives in government.
Well, because it used to be Northwest Territories, and then they split it.
Yeah.
And then created Nunavut so that they had their own semi-autonomous provinces.
Yeah, and it's good for them.
Yeah.
You
just have to live up there.
Oh, but they can, right? Because
Yeah.
they have those, like you going back to Dan Carlin, they have those special abilities, you know, like from your race. So, you know,
well,
like, I'm
actually,
a dwarf, so I'm good at this.
It's scientifically proven that, and I heard an argument about what to call them, and it actually depends regionally. Eskimo versus Inuit.
Yeah.
It's
Eskimo's real.
thing.
You just got to make sure you call them Eskimo.
Yeah, you got to be in the right spot
Yeah.
to say it. So, like, that's why, you know.
Yeah, don't be calling a Crip of blood, yo.
Yeah, like when I was younger, they're like, don't call them Eskimos, it's racist. But it's like, actually, there's parts of Canada where they prefer to be called that, and parts of Alaska where they don't, and parts of this, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, I was told that when I was a kid, don't call them that. And then when I actually listen to people who actually give a shit, they're like, well, it depends.
It was really funny. It was really funny because when I was First Nations rep, I had to hang out with the Pride Center a lot, and they always loved me. And I always told them, I was like, I don't have any like new progressive.
By pride, you mean like pride gay or?
Yeah,
like?
the LBG. I don't want to miss.
I'm not doing the whole thing.
I don't even try either. I was very resistant to their bullshit, and I will say it's bullshit. And like, no, because I come in with this old, ancient, two-spirited idea.
Yeah.
And I met this dude, and he was becoming a woman, and became a woman. Wanted to be called Karen. Yeah. And I walked in, and I called.
Hilariously wanted to be called Karen.
I'm not even lying. Yeah. It was CH too. This is before Karen.
Well, that's different, yeah.
Anyways, super nice person. He played guitar, awesome, liked him, and became her.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and I made a mistake, and kind of got upset with me. And I was like, well, hey, you can correct me.
Yeah.
If you want to be called what you want to call, I will change for you. I don't care.
That's actually my problem.
Some native people will legit be like, oh, I don't care. You call me an Indian. I don't care. Some people are like, don't call me an Indian. That's not what we are.
Yeah.
So what do you want to be called?
Yeah.
And they go, I've done that to everybody I've ever met, and it's worked out great for me. Yeah. Just adjust to who you meet.
That's my main issue with that. Like, I take a scientific approach, and you see some of these, like, it's a little off topic, but the actual scientists studying like sex and gender. What the actual ones saying, the ones who really know what they're talking about, is very different than what you're getting in the public. And an example was in medical literature, there is historic precedence for men wanting to become women, but there's not that much literature for women to becoming men. And what they're finding is due to social pressures, a lot of women are transitioning. A lot of teen girls are transitioning unnecessarily. And my issue with this whole thing is I'm not seeing a civil rights issue anymore. I'm seeing a bullying issue. Yeah. And I find that the community is being people become bullies. Once they get enough power, people become bullies. And I take the stance of equal under the eyes of the law. Now, I understand it's not being applied equally. Don't blame the cops. Blame the judges. Yeah. Blame the politicians, because the laws are on the books. Yeah. Equal under the eyes of the law. You're not applying it equal under the eyes of the law. That's the problem. And I don't believe in special treatment based on that. But what I see, obviously, the people who get special treatment are the class, the wealthy. That's who gets it. And then when it comes to other stuff,
I've always described people who get special treatment is that, hey, we all have 10-pound bags. Yeah. He has a 5-pound bag. Yeah. I'm like, no, that's not cool. Yeah. Then we should all take a pound off our bag. We should all have 10-pound bags. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's just what it is, man. We're all in this together. I believe in that shared discipline. Yeah. And all those things. That's why when I roll with people or teach people, I'm like, I'm here with you, man. I wake up and I come jiu-jitsu with you. You know? Yeah. I'm here to work on you.
Well, that's right. Like in the dojo, like just chill and have fun.
Like even the guys I taught who are like, I have some really wealthy clients. Yeah. And I told them got them to do the bowing thing. Some really like strong boys.
You're saying wealthy people don't like to have to like bow down to people because they're used to getting what they want. Can you hear?
I think they're just not used to it. Yeah. But I tell them, I'm like, no, I'm going to bow to you too because I enjoy teaching. So I'm thanking you for being here. You're thanking me for teaching you. Yeah. That's all it is. It's just this respect thing. And I will give you the same amount of respect. Yeah. It's not like I stand and you bow. Yeah. Right? We both bow. We're giving that equal amounts of respect. Yeah. And I just always push that. It's just this equality.
Yeah.
I believe in that equality, but equality is very mean and unfair.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Equality is very unfair.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's like if we have equality, like guys 200 pounds, I'm 150.
Well, it's like what is this? Equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome.
I believe in equality of opportunity.
Yeah, and
you have a chance.
Yeah, and I think that martial arts, I think, does that because, like, I know a variety of wealthy people. Some have huge chips on their shoulders. Some of them live in delusional bubbles. Yeah. And, like, I can't even have conversations with some people. Like, I have family that's very wealthy, and I can't have conversations with them because they're like, you're a crazy... Like, they don't say it to my face because they're nice people, but I know they think I'm a crazy person because I'm like, they're like, where are you getting this from? Because in their world, they don't see it.
No, it's not in your lexicon or your experience.
Yeah. And you know, I have no problem with people accumulating wealth. I will tend to butt heads with wealthy people who didn't earn it themselves, and they just sort of jumped in the family. And it's like
you got an inheritance.
Yeah, now
that was actually one of my. I stopped listening to Joe Rogan, religiously.
Yeah,
everyone. I stopped when he kind of had a big shit stink about that, about how like he believed that his money shouldn't go to his kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I think it's okay for you to get.
That's
some
what
kind
did
of
it for you.
That can get you some help.
Yeah.
Like, but no, because like that's what messes my culture up.
Yeah.
We had lots of wealth.
Yeah.
Like wealth, which just wasn't turned into dollars.
Yeah.
But it was wealth, and then they're like, but that was taken away from us.
Yeah.
So we didn't have opportunity.
Yeah.
And then now all these other guys, these white guys, these immigrants came in. They got that opportunity. They have logging companies, farms, and all this stuff. And like, oh, you guys are doing so much better.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I think that's funny. That's the reason. I for a time stopped listening. He had a reporter from Russian television. So you'll do Abby Martin. Yeah. Abby Martin is vehemently anti-Israel, and she's saying stuff as a fucking reporter that I know is not true.
That's my only beef with anybody from Israel. If they talk shit, I'm going like, hey, you got a country, chill.
Yeah, you know, and
I'm still fighting for mine.
But that's something I've noticed in the native. I was brought that up for a reason. I see a lot of natives posting a lot of anti-Israel, anti-Semitic shit, and I'm like, what the fuck?
They gotta chill. It's just empathy because I understand like. You get pushed around too much, man. You're not going to be trustful of the outside world. Yeah. And like for whatever reason, Jews are like, I'm not white. Yeah. You know, it's like I can be like, oh, white people, not Jews.
The Jews are in a. It's because the way for Jews is it's confusing. The way I call it the Hitler rule. It doesn't matter what we think.
Yeah. He decided
because everybody else would be like, you're not white, you're a Jew.
Yeah.
And. You can get white Jews. You can get black Jews. There's a lot of Ethiopian Jews, for example. There's Jews from the Middle East. There's Jews all over the place, and it confuses people.
Yeah,
we're like we're one of the only groups of people that is a culture and a religion and an ethnic background.
And a state.
Yeah, and a state. Which, by the way, I say to anyone, history aside, we won the fucking war, and we held the ground. And that's I started to take that stance because it's like we didn't start that war. Mm-hmm. We won it. And you know what? We can play around with all the politics of this agreement versus the British fucked everyone over. We all know it.
I'm just going to make up a country with a pencil here.
In fact, and I have a hard time finding it, but there was some document I found once that basically said they gave it to the Jews in the end because they thought they were going to lose the war and get killed. So they didn't actually give a shit because they're like post World War II or like we don't care. Like it sucks what happened to them. We have our bigger problems.
And there's always some kind of hard reality in there.
Yeah, and nobody expected us to win, and then we kept winning, and then kept winning, and now, whether you like Trump or not, it seems like he kind of goaded some of the Middle Eastern countries to be like, hey, can you stop picking fights with Israel and just get along?
Yeah,
and
it's nice.
Yeah, and you know,
I just believe in that empathy, man. Yeah. We all need a place, and even like. I got mad at some of my friends who were Jewish about like the issues they have in Israel with some of the other ethnic groups. Yeah. And I'm like, but that was you. Yeah. So find some kind of version where it works, okay? Yeah. And they should say that too. It's my only issue.
Well, that's what I say. Both sides
only
need to play
issue
that game,
with like hardcore Muslim people.
Well, hardcore any religious people, I think.
No, because hardcore Christian people I can pull. Yeah. I don't know why. Probably because I'm Catholic. Yeah. But like with the Muslims, I just want them to just go back to being super chill and let's all just try find a space. Yeah. But then you run into ego and you run into all these things and I just tell them, I go, philosophy, there's a way. Yeah. Philosophically, there is a way. Yeah. You just don't.
You have to want to have peace.
Yeah. You also want to let go of shit.
Yeah.
You want to have to be like, you know what, man, you killed my dad, but I'm gonna let it go for the future. Yeah. And that's so hard to do, but it's just...
Especially when it comes to Israel and natives thing. I actually think natives should relate to that more, is that there's a lot of misinformation that people don't know. And it's like, I hear stuff coming out... Well, So I served in the IDF. There's people that I served with that are vehemently left-wing because actually a lot of Jews in America in particular don't very much like Israel and its policies. They're actually extremely left-wing. Now, I think they're naive fools the way they act politically because they're supporting people who are sounding a lot more like Hitler than Trump was. I understand white supremacists were voting for Trump. I got that. We all hate those guys. But the policies and the stuff are starting to sound a lot more like Hitler on the left.
That's why education's scary, because I'm the one thing Canada hates. I'm an educated Native person. And one of my favorite Vindaloo.
Well, I would say, to be fair, governments don't like
anyone
educated people.
Yeah. But I'm in that group that's educated, but it's that they don't like.
Yeah.
And they don't like us not because we're Native. Just we have them by the balls in a way through policy and through actual legitimate morality.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're like having a hard time fighting it.
Yeah.
It'd be like, well, we don't really want to give you this land, but it's actually kind of theirs.
Yeah.
It's really like that's what Canadians in general have an issue with Native people because they're just on the wrong.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're going to lose something.
Yeah.
They feel like, oh, man, I'm going to lose $10 on my paycheck this week. It's not real for you.
Well, you know, I think that is in the Native issue in Canada. I have an issue with the half-assed. Like, if a band says, we want this territory, it's ours, and you want to be your own nation, I'm like, great. You can't play half. You can't be Quebec. Don't be Quebec. We're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and fuck off, Quebec. You're stealing money for the rest of the Canada constantly, and you don't contribute much. Other than culture and poutine and that, it's offensive to other Canadians. I know Quebecers going to be like, you motherfucker, but you're not thinking about the other side. So outside of the major cities, because that's complicated, you want to have your territory back. I personally don't have a problem, but then you don't also get to constantly demand money all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
But like, it's like in my particular nation, ours is huge. We're like 10% of the interior of the province.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it's
like geographically or?
Yeah, we got so much land. It's just trees and gold mines, literal gold mines, and just all kinds of stuff, and just shut down the pipeline right then and there. Be like, sorry, go around.
The pipeline issue I found interesting from
that's what's really killing the elk, bro.
Sorry. And all
that stuff. It's the pipeline.
That also, I never thought of that. Now, my issue,
because they're skittish, right?
Yeah.
They don't like being around
the elk are smart.
noises and people. Yeah. It's like, you ever seen a Wolverine?
Not in real life.
I have, but I was like so far out in the woods. Yeah. Like I'm sure he wanted to come talk to me because he was alone.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just, you can't. The real animals don't want to be close to us.
Yeah.
That's why raccoons aren't burglars.
Well, the pipeline issue is an issue because I was reading some. Obviously, there's a lot of Native bands vehemently against it, but there was a bunch that were for it, right? And I'm like so confused about that.
See who was for?
In what sense?
The chief.
Oh, the chief.
That guy.
Yeah. Is it just one band or is it?
There's a bunch of bands like that. Like one of the worst bands, one of the worst community bands is Burns Lake.
Yeah.
Because Burns Lake, guys, you got to chill. You guys are racist as shit. And you got to chill.
Wait. People other than white people can be racist?
No. Like natives have a real issue, but it's against that. It's like almost like that Jew thing. You just been pushed so much. I can't trust anybody now. You just get pushed so far to that corner where it's like, I don't care what you are. If you're not Jewish, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that's
which, by the way, is not true for most Jews.
No. It's even like what happened like in the 60s with with black people.
Yeah.
They really stuck to their own because it was like, I can't even trust you. Wait, I trust you.
Yeah.
You know, like it just because it's dangerous. So it's like a human thing. I describe it as that, not like a political or a choice. It was just a human. Like Native people do it to this day. They don't. Why don't you leave the res?
Yeah.
I don't want to be around people I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's really scary, especially when you're forced to be alone with other Native people with the same problems.
Yeah.
But so I'm remember my own train of thought on that. But just with natives in the pipeline, it's just the bands is that the community. You get voted in. Again, you don't have a philosophy degree. You don't have anything that really like you have what you think you know.
Yeah.
And what you think you know is broken because of this residential school system, the 60s scoop, all these things about like so have these breakages in things that can see the big picture or the morality or take you away from like things bigger than yourself. And the mandate of the council and chiefs do better for the community. So like, well, we don't got nothing else going on. This pipeline says they'll give us this kind of jobs. Yeah. It's always an asterisk, though, meaning like if you test positive for weed, you're fired. Yeah. So there's always an asterisk of like, okay, are there any Native people like this? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. There's always an asterisk, and so they get these. So they get to do the political thing, and we got jobs, we got X amount of money, we're given opportunity. This is it's our land, but we have to use our land to get to work with the community. And they're like, okay, and it's just, but everyone else is like, no, because it's too much of a risk.
Yeah.
Because it's getting rid of, it's the water, it's all these other things, the land itself, access.
Yeah.
Just don't want a bunch of companies in there messing around.
Yeah.
And because they traditionally will do more than what they say
Oh,
they're there
yeah, of
to
course,
do.
always, yeah.
You got to pull like the Haida Gwaii, how they rolled, where they just put guns to people and say, get off the island, get off the island. That's what happened. They showed up to survey it for the government, and then
sometimes force works. Sorry to say.
Well, the chief asked them, "What are you guys doing here?" And they explained it to them like 3-4 times because of translation. And he's like, "Just get out of here. I don't want you doing that here."
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how politely and well you said what you're doing. What you're doing, I don't want you doing it here.
Yeah.
And that was his right. It was his island. He's the chief Haida Gwaii. But that's what the issue is. So some bands will say yes, but they don't really have the community backing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not like I'm the president. I just have veto power here.
Yeah.
There's lots
limited veto power,
there's
but
lots
they do.
of ways within the band community if they all got together says we don't want this pipeline at all, and we're putting this down. Now, unfortunately, the infrastructure is messed up with the INAC or Indian Affairs or whatever they changed their name. But you can go to the Indian agent, still the Indian agent.
Yeah.
You can go to him and you can complain and you can have a process. But those bureaucracy holes are really bad that you just don't have. It's not a good way to go about it. So they're doing what they do, which is we resist. And then they say, well, their political officials said yes, but the people say no. Yeah. And the people are ultimately the ones who make the decision. Yeah. And I agree with them because it's like some people like it. And I was so sad. They picked the worst version of a native person. I might know this guy. I'm sorry if you could just get back to you. But homie's fat. He looks, I swear he had chips on his face when they interviewed him. And they're asking him, he's like, I wanted the pipeline to be in here. I'm like, I don't know if you'd go to work every day, bro. You just don't, you were the worst version of it. Yeah. But they're, native people are always knowing if we keep everything cool, we can hunt, we can eat, everything's good. Yeah. Yeah. Right? So, like, and if the government's being having such a hard stick up their ass about giving us our land back entirely and keeping us on the Indian Act, we'll stay in that system. You got to pay for it, and we're gonna keep what we got. Yeah, it's just, there's not very strong government ties in there, and also you have a lot of people who are abused and alcoholics, and then they want the free ride, or they want the easiest ride because it's not really free, but they want the easiest ride, and they throw wrenches in the system. Yeah. Because they're a band member. They have people they have enough power to complain. Yeah. So, like, the greater good is always going to be sacrificed to the individual. Yeah,
that's true. The pipeline issue is interesting to me in the sense it's like, it's a microcosm for the lack of ability of the average person to think holistically, as in, I agree, let's go to renewable energy. Yeah. You do know most of Canada's
doesn't like Ecuador or something do that?
A lot of places now.
Whole countries like that.
Yeah, it's like, but you do realize a large percentage of Canada's wealth and economy is tied into that. And while I have no problem changing to renewable energies, there is zero plan to either replace that as an economic source or switch over. Like, sorry to the peeps in Alberta, but the oil industry is going to be dead soon, and you guys even Saudi Arabia is shifting, and you guys are still saying, I want the money I used to have. It's like, guys,
I lived in Alberta.
You're not going to get it anymore.
You get like a $5 steak. Like, I wouldn't go see Chuck Liddell fight Tito Ortiz. Yeah. Beers were $3 each. Yeah. You could get quadruple shots for like $4 or something.
And I think
it was crazy.
Yeah. People got used to just having so much wealth. Like, so much wealth, and it's gone now, and they're not trying to change, and it's not.
Well, they do the one thing that you really should do every time something bad happens: take personal responsibility.
Yeah. and it's like when Saudi Arabia is already trying to shift their entire economy. I mean, granted, it's a whole different thing over there. It's like, you guys need to do that too, but the people who are like native aside, because it's land and stuff.
Well, they have an issue too.
Yeah, it's the people who are like, no pipelines. It's like, okay, so what's your plan? And they're like, no pipelines. I'm like, okay, you need a plan, guys. Now, I'm a proponent for nuclear energy because if you actually talk to any honest scientist, that's the answer. But what's the public's view on nuclear energy?
There's just too many accidents. That's why.
No, historically, but if you actually look into it.
No, I've looked into it. Yeah. It's been going on.
Gen 1 reactor, Gen 2 reactor, Gen 1 reactor 3 times, and it's usually to do with Chernobyl was a complete clusterfuck. That's just them, like, literally.
Again, Ukraine taking a hard stick. Man.
Nuclear reactor, concrete thing, tin roof. You know, Fukushima, which was a disaster, was to do human error and only that was completely avoidable. 3 Mile Island, the one people forget about, they contained that really quickly.
Yeah. No, there's still ones working to this day.
Yeah, and what people don't realize about that is, love or hate, and Bill Gates spent a fucking fortune developing new generation reactors that don't even have nuclear waste. They're self-sustaining. And it's like, people don't know that, and there's political cowardice regarding this, and they're not pushing it.
It's big picture stuff.
Yeah.
That's all.
And it's like, okay, I had one person who was a journalist and had some very strange ideas about the world, and you could tell they're like, I'm not.
That Russian journalist you were talking about. Russians are always they're just built.
Well, she's an American journalist who writes for RT, because RT is international. That's why if you want to get the truth about America, sometimes you read other news.
Check out Alex Jones once in a while.
Yeah, his sources are valid. He's just a little bit of a crazy person.
Yeah, just check it out. You know.
This person was like, no nuclear energy. I'm a reporter. I know stuff. I'm not biased. Oh, I work for the Liberal Party of Canada. I'm like, first of all, you are biased. You just admitted to it. Second of all, why wouldn't we do nuclear? Because every scientist I've ever talked to would say that's the future. They'll never say it publicly because I'm sorry they're being cowards about it. But he's like, no, a super collider, particle energy, that's the future. I'm like, I think, and I had a student at the time who worked on particle. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? He's like, that guy's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but no one wants to. I think because of politics, like with natives, or politics with Israel, nobody wants to say, hey, you're being stupid. This is the actual science, in fact. This is the reality. Get over your emotional thoughts about stuff. Like, the whole COVID thing is driving me insane about how smart people are being so stupid, and the people who didn't know anything in the first place are either brainwashed or being ridiculous about it.
I'm like 50-50 on that.
Yeah.
With the COVID.
In 10 years, mark my words, they're going to look, if we're not in an authoritarian government by then, they're going to look back at, like, this was the how not to govern globally, and how not to manipulate, and how not to cause panic. And they're going to use this as a forever case study of how badly governments fucked up. Probably. Because when you look at the science, it's like, I'm sorry, this was not that bad. If you compare this to a lot of other things, and you're starting to look at the vaccines now, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm talking about this vaccine, and there's, like, I was just reading in Norway, like, a whole bunch of old people who got it died. And it's like, if it happens where you start to see the similar statistics for the vaccine as you do the virus, it's like, guess what? You've been lied to for the last year. We should have protected the elderly, boosted the frontline workers, and left the society to run itself. And that anyone who was told that early on was your conspiracy, And I'm like, I am looking at the data. I don't need a scientist to tell me. I can interpret the data to myself. And there's a lot of ego in the science world and the academia, as you said, the ivory tower people that don't want to be told by some schmuck on the internet you're wrong. And it's like, but there's actually a lot of doctors and a lot of smart schmucks on the internet who can read the data themselves.
Yeah, that's why I say I'm like 50-50.
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of understand that, like, some people needed to, like, really, like, look out.
Yeah, well, for sure.
You got to protect yourself, man.
Older people predominantly.
That's shitty for you.
Yeah.
Some people can't eat peanuts, my guy. And other people, that's just what it is. Like, I always feel bad for, like, I never in any argument complained about, like, white, like, when the settlers came here and then just gave everybody smallpox. Yeah. I'm like, this is what it was.
Yeah, that is something that's totally
why I don't that's why I don't have a moose clan in my culture. But they died because of smallpox. Oops. And it's like,
hold that thought. I have to we'll be right back after these messages. Not just hit the pause it for 1 second.
Where it was like, no, I think this is super.
By the way, we're continuing. It's going to be a little disjointed. Just had to do something real quick.
Yeah, but, like, I'm 50-50 in the sense that I'm like, no, it's dangerous for some people. 100%. Yeah. We need to protect those people. I'm really about empathy. Something my mother really taught me. Yeah. But
I'm the worst for empathy. Sorry. I acknowledge it. I may or may not be a sociopath. I can't help it. Whatever.
I'll probably be getting a lot of trouble talking about my exes too much. But, like, with my ex-fiance, like, I felt like because she's Ukrainian, she's
not going to listen.
No, she's super hot. And she just was Ukrainian. So she comes from this hard life background. And she's being sorry, if you're a really pretty woman, people just secede to you because you're pretty, okay?
A lot of the time.
They just let it go because they're like, oh,
scientific fact, looks matter, get over it.
Yeah,
I
don't want to let this babe think I'm a jerk. Might have a chance one day.
Like, what was that movie? There was the chick movie, Rebel Wilson, the singing. Anyways, and the second one, I think she's like, you don't get to look like that and have that kind of attitude. And it's like, that is the most true thing.
But anyways, I always have to tell her because just any issue we would argue about, because it's always so core to me, empathy, which is like, you know what? We accept people for who they are, so they accept us for who we are.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't accept you for who you are, then yeah, fuck those people.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's
but like the COVID thing, it's like, no, it was pretty clear early on. It's elderly people and people with issues. And what infuriates me is the shit like what Cosmopolitan magazine is doing with the obese people. This is fit. There's nothing with that message. No. Nothing okay with that message.
I was 195. Like, you see pictures of me. I have abs with 195. I look great. I went and trained with Bibiano and all those pros. Yeah. I threw up in the 5th round and was pushed around. I'm fat.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's levels of like what you want to achieve, but like, I couldn't have done that if I had big belly and 220 pounds.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, that's cowardice. Is that the politicians don't want to say, listen, if you've made the choice to live unhealthy, you're at risk of this thing.
Made your bed,
They refuse to tell the truth, and then I just get sick of. There's an individual. I'll just keep shitting on him. I'm not going to use his name in the martial arts community locally, who's educated and very elitist with his attitude towards science, and has been shitting on the martial arts community left, right, and center all over the internet and picking fights. I think you know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea because I don't care.
I'll tell you afterwards. And
my opinion of that, I tell people, is like, people are allowed to talk all the shit they want. You just don't have to listen.
Yeah, but my point is like, I know you're educated. I used to respect you, and now I don't, because your approach was so arrogant, and you antagonize people. And it's like, listen, I can read the data. The data is clearly saying the same thing it has this entire time. If you're older, you're at risk.
Have health issues.
If you have health issues, the media has been lying. I think
when people got the health issues, they visualize somebody with an asthma, you know, like it's a regular human.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, man, like if you can't walk upstairs.
And then there was that, this is what really pissed me off with that guy, is that sumo wrestler died. He's like, see, athletes. I'm like, fuck off. He's an obese person. Get over it.
He's an obese athlete.
He's an obese athlete. It's like, you son of a bitch.
Still obese, yeah.
Like, that was the biggest crock of shit. It's like, they've been saying obese this whole time is going to cause problems. You know, in the martial arts industry, we're getting hit hard. Now, as much as I am pissed off about how they're handling it in BC.
I absolutely disagree with it, 100%.
Yeah.
That's just when I get super native and I say, y'all, government need to fuck off.
Yeah, I still prefer being here than, say, in Quebec or New York or these. They're playing politics. They're being cowards, and they're letting the Karens yell at them. And I'm like, don't talk to me about science when it's very clear that at the very least, people under 40 can go around. As long as you're not interacting regularly with people who are older, you're fine.
Yeah, like my master asked me about that, and I don't know if it changed his opinion or anything. I just talk best I can with him. Because, again, he's like my hero, so I try to keep my shit together when I talk to him. But he asked about it. My response to him was that, like, I think with the jiu-jitsu community or martial arts community, or really any fitness community, CrossFitters, really, we are such a closed-off group of people anyway. Yeah. Like, I've probably seen this week 10 people that I spent time with.
Allegedly.
Oh, really? Yeah. Like, that includes the group that had beat the tar on me. Yeah. And inside of that, I'm like, it's like probably like 10 people total, including you. And I'm not even like doing COVID stuff. I'm just doing my knife normally. Yeah. So right then and there, I'm already in a small space of people I spend time with. Yeah. And then 2, we're all athletic as shit. We train really hard. We put in the time and the effort. We're people who can handle some bumps. Yeah. And from what I tell people, they say, look, if you get COVID, it's not fatal. I'm like, okay, just on that alone. I don't need data. I don't need any thought processes. If you get it, if you just treat it like it's, like I'm sick, go take care of yourself. Yeah. You'll be okay.
Vitamin D, by the way, early on was like
every day for me,
early on they were like vitamin D, and most athletic people make sure their supplements are there, and so
you need it or you'll die.
And it was like, I think this is okay because they have a professional athletic exemption, but let's Jeremy Kennedy went down to Vegas, and they all fucking got all the UFC fighters got it. Yeah. They just kind of like puttered around for a few weeks, and then everyone got it, and they were fine.
Yeah, he got it. He got to go because it's his job. Can't stop a man from.
No, he has total legal. That's why I can say it because I know he's legally fine.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that most of the UFC athletes got it early on, and then they're fine.
Got it. He's 40.
Yeah, and they're fine.
But he's an athlete, so he can. It's this. It almost like it's the thought that just came into mind. This COVID issue. It's almost like it's pointing out who's special.
Yeah.
And people in this day and age don't want to acknowledge they're special.
Yeah.
Right? And if you are special, you got to be like super cool and humble and empathetic
And most
to
people,
the people who don't
aren't
have
special,
it.
though. That's the thing.
Most people are or not?
Are not.
No, they're not. We're not. Some people say I'm special. I go, duh, I know, like,
dude, like
Kennedy. Like my biggest claim to fame with Kennedy ever. Rolling jiu-jitsu, probably not serious, whatever. But I swept him once.
Yeah, I rolled with him once.
Yeah, I've done jiu-jitsu 10 years, and I've swept that man once.
Yeah,
and it's like he's special.
Yeah,
he's talented. And that's okay.
Yeah. And you know, that's the thing is like you're not special until you prove to the world you are special.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, guess what? Shut the fuck up. But everyone wants it's it's the human, or we're talking about like anxiety and this. Everyone wants to feel important, and it ties into the human ego, and it's because of the internet. I think people are getting their own self-inflated.
I always say be important to the people around you, man.
Yeah. Well, that's what was it?
Because your friends will make you feel special.
I'm trying to think. I forgot who it was. Someone very wise and wealthy, successful,
was
and
it
just happy.
Masashi?
No. More modern. And it's someone on the Tim Ferriss podcast or something.
Okay.
It was probably like, it's only the opinions of the people that matter to you that matter. Like forget everyone else. The people that you respect are the only opinions that you should care about.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't really respect them, then why the hell do you care? It's like.
Like I've had an issue with some people, and but I really respected them. I said, "Hey, I need you to stop doing that." And I said, "Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for looking out for me. I'll stop that right now."
And that actually really pisses me, and I get into trouble with this. And I am like, okay, whether it's because I'm associate, whatever. I don't pick up on things that other people seem to pick up socially, and I'm like, you need to tell me if I've crossed the line. You need to, and they're like, no, you need to take responsibility. I'm like, I'm letting you know.
Have some fucking courage and just tell somebody like, hey man, fuck you.
Yeah, I'm like,
and that's why I tell people get into martial arts. It's like, well, because like, I want to be, inevitably you're just being socially of a bitch because you don't want to be in a fight.
Yeah. And I'm not going to start a fight. I'm just like, I'm asking you. Yes, I might get annoyed, but I'm telling you I have a problem. And if you think I crossed the line, if I said something, you need to tell me. And nowadays people are, because of the internet, they're not used to that. And
but I also entice that just because you get in a fight with somebody doesn't mean like someone was right or wrong.
It's just a fight.
Like you could be in an argument and someone could totally be legitimate. Like it could be between people who are like racist and these beliefs are totally wrong, and they fight. And say whoever wins doesn't win that argument. That argument is still stagnated and still there, and it's still a problem that you need to talk out. But are you fighting for who's the better fighter? Then someone can win. But because if someone goes on like, this is why I don't like Connor or like that talking style of martial arts, because people assume all the shit you talked in your opponent is true now. I'm like, no, man.
I'm sorry. That's because people are dumb. Like, you don't know he's playing the heel. You're being an idiot.
But he doesn't play the heel, but it's even like when he fought Dustin Poirier, he talked all that shit, knocked him out when he was way back in his heyday, Connor coming up. Everyone believed Dustin was done. I'm like, no, Dustin's a savage.
Well, they're fighting again next week.
Yeah, he's fighting again. We'll see what goes down. But he's still there. He's still going to be fighting.
By the way, Khabib fight has been announced. They haven't announced who, though. He's come. Of course, he wasn't going to retire.
George.
It's probably George. It better be.
I have George on Instagram. He's all like, I'm excited for no reason.
I think
he's getting all
the
like,
fight.
He's getting all super pumped doing stuff, and I'm like, man, George is starting to.
Well, that's the thing. He's showing up on my social media feed again all of a sudden, and it's like, I hope that's the fight.
I love that fight, and I'm on George with that 100%.
Yeah, well, I just think he's.
I don't truly believe that. Like, you know how Connor kind of got babied?
Yeah,
I think Khabib didn't get challenged either.
Oh yeah,
and to be fair, there's not really anyone for him.
Yeah. Well, I was actually not that impressed with Khabib until his last fight, where he did something other than just sit on them and put them in the leg triangle thing, which works. I've been put in it. It's where he actually showed his jiu-jitsu all of a sudden.
Well, the issue is that because he knew he could do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk shit on the guy he beat, but like Justin Gaethje's not known. Like he's not posting Instagram videos of him doing an omoplata roll to a triangle.
I mean, and Gaethje looked like crap in that, like just like jittery and like what the hell?
Yeah, that takedown's scary.
Yeah,
when you know it's gonna come, like that's like again training with like one of the reasons I train with Oguzhan. It's like, why you train with a guy so much smaller than you? It's like because that man will take me down.
Yeah,
I will never be at his world level of double leg
speed. Yeah,
that he just shoots.
It's called the Flash for a reason.
Yeah, and throws me down. Oh, my baby. I'm Oz.
Oguzhan.
But Bibi too. Oh my God, Bibi. Yes, even like Bibi's like So, but you have to like, get in there still. But I feel that was that fear.
Yeah.
And with George, he won't have that fear.
Oh no.
And also to be fair, Khabib's huge.
Yeah.
And when he fights those 55ers, man, like it's.
Well, he had trouble in the early days.
Yeah, he had really hard times. Which is weird because like when you get to his level, you just buy people that are amazing at what they do.
Yeah.
And but so like with him going up to 170 to fight to fight GSP. I'm like, that's a.
I really hope that's the fight.
Well, it is because that Connor. If you look at the old videos, Khabib when he met George, he's like, yes, this is the man. My father trained me to fight this guy. This is the guy my father trained me to fight every day. And I'm like, oh, that's why. Because his dad passed. Why would he come back?
Yeah.
Fight the guy your dad wanted you to
Well, you see,
fight.
Connor's trash talk about it is hilarious.
You see, I can't listen. I can't take you seriously.
Well, I don't take it seriously because I know he's just hyping it up.
I know. Just I can't take Connor seriously. Like, I think Khabib's afraid, and he should be. And I'm like, dude, I grew up watching pro wrestling. I know what you're doing.
Yeah,
like,
I know it. But what bothers me is that people don't know what he's doing.
I know, it's so silly.
They get so worked out. He's dishonorable. I'm like, no, he's. Have you seen how he treats his fan when he's not drunk? At least he's a really nice guy in that sense. Like
you stereotypically be like say to any Irishman.
Well, no, it's just because he keeps getting arrested with bar fights and shit. That not because of him being Irish. That's because he's gotten in trouble a couple times. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So it's hard being famous to you, man. People come after you. That's why I couldn't take that sexual assault allegation seriously.
Yeah. That's why I was like,
it's an allegation.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to get settled out of court because you can do that in America. You can just be like, hey,
it was in Spain or somewhere? Or
no, it was in the States.
Oh, so there was another one there.
Yeah, that's the one in the States. Again, because he's loaded.
Yeah.
And he didn't. The thing about people who I've spending time with people who are very wealthy and come from wealthy families, they get groomed and trained how to deal with shit. Yeah. And if you just come from like when you were literally a plumber in Ireland, you don't know how to deal with.
I thought it was just a bum.
Yeah, so like couldn't do jiu-jitsu back in his day, but like it just you don't know how to deal with people just walking up and talking to you and say, "Hi, how you doing? I want to talk to you and I want to do this. Hey, I'll come with you. I'll come, and then just like.
Yeah, and I do have some very wealthy family. I mean, not like billionaire, but considerably wealthy. And I've hung around.
Wealthy is like in the world of like people who I know are super rich. Yeah. I'm like, dude, like your kitchen is wealthy. Yeah, I grew up in the trees on a reservation, which is statistically the poorest places in Canada. So like,
hey, you got tree wealth. No, and I feel so out of place with wealthy in that polished, and they're like trying to hype me up, and I'm like, but what you just said is not true, and they get so offended because they're like, I was trying to hype you up. Like they don't say it, but you can see like, what is wrong with this person? I'm like, I don't do fake, okay? Fuck off. You want to talk to me, be a real human being, and I just don't do well in that socialite circle. And they think I'm some schmuck, and I'm just like, I think you're arrogant, elitist people like that, and they could be nice people, but it's just that world is like. You have no idea what it's like not to grow up with money, do you?
One thing I told my current girlfriend when we were back in Brisbane was like, hey, don't ask questions unless you want to hear a sad story. Yeah. And when a couple of them when I'm hanging out with them, like, you have an issue with this? And I'm like, okay, no, dude, I just like I come from a different space. Yeah. And like I can be very polite and nice.
Is it a safe space?
Yeah, it's a safe space for me because hooks are like basically my hook range is my safe space. Yeah. But is that. With the mask thing, like I always say it's like because I grew up in politics in a way. Like Vin DeLorean is one of my favorite authors, and he said to be born Indian is to be born into politics. Yeah. So you have to learn how to not just say this is my fucking land. Yeah. You have to be like, well, I think there's an agreement we can make. It's a way of going about it. So I learned it, but I don't like it.
What's he written? Because I'm not
very very
obscure.
No controversial things like what did he write? All his like. One of them that I liked the most was just like, here comes the archaeologists or the anthropologists. Oh, yeah. And he just shit talks their whole profession. Oh, yeah. Because they go in and they basically, they changed. But back then they would come in and be like, show me your culture. Yeah. And I'm going to be observant. I'm not going to. And in Native culture, you have to be in it to know it.
I don't think that's very controversial. I think it's controversial because anthropologists, like a lot of academics, have egos, and they didn't like it.
He goes deep. He goes super deep because he was a native. Like I think in the 70s and 80s, he was a native scholar.
Well, I mean, the early anthropologists were dicks. Like, they were dicks.
They were also high on coke.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of other stuff.
But in that case, it was like I've watched as a kid. I watched someone drink themselves to death. Yeah, I've watched people just do crack in front of me, like going through the carpet looking for what they think is rocks, and I'm like, so I'm having a hard time listening to this guy who's soft as shit. This guy in front of me who's soft as shit, trying to backhand me with his socialite chatter, and I just don't feel comfortable, and I don't want to be a part of it. Yeah, that's the best way I do it. I actually don't like violence.
Yeah, me too. I'm aware of what I am and am not capable of, and I would rather not, unless it's life or death. Now, actually, 180 turn. Training for sport versus training for real world, because we were talking about kind of before. But like, I think that when we take away the life or death aspect for training, it really changes the dynamics of a lot of fighting and how you, because like you in the past have talked about like native knife fighting, and it's like I hear a lot Navajo knife fighting, and a lot of all these fancy knife fighting systems. And then whenever I talk to soldiers or people who've had to use knife fighting for real, it's like, first person to kill him wins. Just stab him in the throat. Yeah. And like you see all these fancy systems, and while they may work, it's like when you talk to people who've been in life or death, it's you either get like the blur of I don't remember what happened, and they have
that once in a while.
They have scars all over them, and they're like, I don't know how I survived.
One of the guys I taught, I said we had like a fake, we made a pretend knife, and I was like, all right, let's go, and just like I showed him how the jiu-jitsu can work, but he's like, that was nothing like it because it wasn't jiu-jitsu.
Well, but that's the thing is we can
you can't put a guard up, your ankles will get cut, right? Like it's just
so we can play knife fighting, but you're still not really doing it, because again, like the first person to really go in with the mind of I'm going to kill you. And you might get cut up. Wins. And if you haven't gotten a lethal strike in like 3 or 4 hits, you may be playing around, or you may be too scared. If based on the stories I've heard of people who've been in life and death knife fights.
The people who really know.
And
I've been stabbed twice, so I have a small. I wasn't in a fight, but I have a small, like, it happens quickly, and it's a lot of damage in a short amount of time. And I did the thing you should do. I ran. Absolutely. The 2 times I count knife altercations is because somebody was really drunk and we were on ice, and martial arts worked perfectly. But those aren't the situations that are always going to be there for you.
Well, and that's the correct thing. I'm like I'll teach a little bit of knife fighting at the higher level, but that's because I'm teaching military application of Krav Maga. I'm like, in the civilian life, why are you in a knife fight? Like, one knife versus unarmed is more foreseeable than knife versus knife. Like, what world do you live in?
I always describe it as if like you're cornered. Like they're kind of cornered you somehow, and you gotta like, okay, I can tell the way he's bladed that there's something coming, because people don't just like get a boxing stance and hold a knife, right? They kind of hide it, and then you gotta like, I'll show how to deal with that. But even then, it's like, if you just get away from him, get away from him.
Oh, of course. It's the best option.
Then there's that one badass in Brazil where that guy had that machete. See how on the internet it came out? This is what I say, martial arts can work perfectly if it works perfectly.
Is that the judo one? Where
he
just walks off
in
judo?
He just picked up this machete, tries to hack at this cop. Cop closes the distance because his hand is above his head and shoulder throws him.
I generally don't recommend doing that technique in that situation.
Balls on that.
He would just walk like, I don't give a fuck, and throw him.
That's probably what did it, because that guy was like, I got a knife, get scared. He was like, I'm not scared.
And that's actually,
which goes back to what you're saying, like that life or death. He was willing to be cut. Right? He was willing to get in there.
And it's like you watch cop videos of a knife versus the whole death by cop thing, and to me it's no training, because if you can tell that this person is playing that death by cop thing, if you don't have the physical skills, you are not going to go near that knife. But guess what? You're the cop. You're the one who has to deal with this. So in the absence of the confidence...
To be fair, you got your vest too.
You got
a little more going for you.
Although I'm going to say this, because I know for a fact, the level 1 vests they wear are not stab proof.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I think front, yes, but like sides, no.
They have to be wearing if they're wearing the bullet resistant ones... But they're not walking around with those ones. They're walking around with the level 1, which is slash proof.
Oh yeah.
In the military, we use those for shrapnel. But I had a Gerber Guardian, and I just put a pillow in it and put it on the bed, and I just went right through, right?
No.
If they're wearing like a level 3 ceramic, that's gonna stop it. But they have those in the trunk, and they almost never put them on.
I was training people. I was training cops for a bit, and we worked on a lot of things like that. It's more about space and distance. I'm more of a karate boxer by choice, where it's because I like the control of space, because that's what's true violence. You need to be close to me to make violence happen.
Although the jiu-jitsu, like what I teach is side control, north-south, neon belly.
Oh yeah, there's a whole stuff. I always just really burn in people's head, just don't let them close to you.
Until you're ready.
And then when it's close, then we really get close.
Because
close,
as you know, in the Native community, when cops get involved, not everyone's going to be compliant.
No, it's not so much compliance as cops go too hard.
Well, that too, yeah.
I remember once I saw a guy. He was a Newfie cop. They said, I don't know why they didn't like him, but they sent him to our reservation for his first detachment.
That's fun.
And he went out there. He broke up a house party.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to everybody.
Yeah.
Showed up. Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, Newfie style.
Chatted it up. Oh, hey, we're going to have to walked into every room.
Yeah.
Hey, who's in here? And the people open the door. Oh, who's in here? Yeah. And then he's like, oh, hey, shouldn't you be at home right now? You're a little young to be here, don't you think?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess so. Because, you know, like, caught you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think that's city cop versus not city cop. If you only ever grew up in a city.
He got there, did all of that, and then his buddy was like, oh, my God, that rookie's there by himself?
Yeah.
In the house?
Yeah.
Surrounded by native, rolled in deep, woo,
Yeah.
woo, came out, hand on the gun.
Yeah.
And then he comes out going, hey, what's going on? I was his superior, so he's trying to, like, calm all the natives down.
Yeah. Because
some homeboy just showed up with a gun. Out of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then he's like trying to calm his superior down, and while tell everybody, no, it's fine. He's silly. They're just trying to find a way to go back to that space where he was really in control of the entire situation. Because some things bad were going on.
Yeah.
They got stopped.
Yeah.
And nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, he got rid of all the, I say like the small things that were like not supposed to be going on, like underagers being there or whatever.
Which happens.
It's just.
No matter what society thinks, no matter what Karen thinks,
and no matter what
your kids are probably drinking.
No, but in what social group, too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say. But he gets rid of all that, and then he's just basically sitting there with people kind of figuring out. He's getting intel. He's figuring out who's who, how to deal with them, having this experience. And then this other cop just shows up. It's like, rah.
I mean, it's a few things, like, because obviously I support police, but also I
support the idea of police.
It's 100% necessary in a civilized society.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of issues to do with Karens. I'm going to get in trouble one day just blatantly using this term, yelling at police and politicians with stuff they don't know anything about.
You can't argue politics with feelings. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
people do now. That's all they do now. But you can't argue with feelings.
No,
Your opinions can't change facts.
Yeah, I will argue with feelings and facts.
But your facts can change opinions.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, for me, it's a system. My big thing right now is...
That's why I love jiu-jitsu, because it either works or doesn't.
Yeah, I pushed the book Anti-Fragile from 2012 because it really talks about the problems with systems. The systems are the problems. So when they're like, trust the scientists, trust the experts, I'm like, okay, but I understand right now and perhaps forever, there is deep-rooted issues with the systems. Yep. Creating this stuff, whether because of lobbyists, like nutrition industry is a huge one, where they basically lied to the general public because the experts said, but really it was people who got paid by money. And that's why I said, learn to read the data, learn to read the stuff, and you figure stuff out. So
just like figure out what a BCA is,
how
it works. You know?
Yeah, and so when people are telling police how to do their jobs that don't understand violence at all, you have to shut up now, because you don't even understand violence, let alone how to deal with it.
Yeah, like what violence really is.
Yeah, like Gordon Ryan posted on he gets stuff taken down all the time. He has a point, is that it was a photo of the Capitol riots of all the congressmen hiding, ducking. And it was, these are the people who are going to tell the police how to do their jobs. And that's a valid point, that people who know nothing about violence, know nothing about how to interact, never had to do it. Half of them were rich lawyers their whole life and then politicians. Yeah. You don't know how to handle this. And then on the other side, it's people, whether, natives don't like the cops or black people don't like the cops.
It's basically like whoever's the poor people doesn't like the cops.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, you also have black people who came from the ghetto, getting out of the ghetto. It's like, stop committing crimes. And I'm not talking about petty drug crimes, because America needs to get all the black people who are put in jail for petty drug crimes probably don't need to be there. But if you're a violent human being, what the fuck are you talking about? Get rid of the cops. Of course you don't want the cops there. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, native, Asian. You don't like cops because you're a violent fucker, and they're like your enemy.
Yeah, you're essentially they're the resistance to you wanting to use force to get what you want.
Yeah, which historically was how it was.
No matter who is there, like other people or cops or whatever, you're going to not like that person.
Yeah, and it's just like a lot of these people who are pushing the defund the police movement in the States were gangsters. And I'm like, fuck those guys.
That's a good move for them, eh?
It's obviously strategically, but fuck those guys. Fuck you.
All's fair in love and war.
Because what happens is in some places, you do get the situation where the gangsters just take over. It's inevitable.
That's kind of what they want. How things were.
Yeah, and it's just
that's
like
Russia, baby.
well, Russia's a whole different top-down gangsterism.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Putin's gonna retire. No, he's gonna be sitting in a dark room dictating what happens.
But unfortunately, Russia needs that kind of leadership to keep the fucking ship going.
Yeah, there is some merit to that.
It's a very violent country, and if no one believes that, just go visit and hang out with everybody.
Yeah. Well, what I learned in the IDF, because there's a lot of Russians there, is you have St. Petersburg is Moscow, then you have the rest of the country. They're completely different.
I believe.
You have like the Dostoevsky and this and that, and then you meet people from like the Ural Mountains, and you're like, I understand why communism hypothetically could work, because these guys will work like dogs, not complain, and drink vodka. And it's like, oh, okay. But they're also a little crazy.
Yeah, up in that area, like the Dyatlov Pass area.
Yeah.
That's why I say they have to have their own system. They live a different life than you, man. You don't get to.
The point I'm talking about police is rural versus, like, I was hunting, going out from one road, out onto the highway to another road, between Revelstoke and going south on that highway. They pull people over like crazy people. Like I think it's offensive. They just sit there and pull people over because it goes from like 100 to like 80 with very little signage, and they're just pulling everyone. It's not even a dangerous road. They're just revenue generating assholes.
Yeah, gotta get those tickets, man.
Yeah, my point was like I had to unload. You must be unloaded in Canada in a vehicle. Okay, unload in the back seat, partially covered.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
I do now. Like if I'm hunting.
Yeah.
I've gotten better at it, but I remember just lock and loaded, man. We're not going everywhere.
Yeah, because I teach the PAL course, I kind of have to follow the laws.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But he looked at it. You can tell what's there. Went on to the ticket thing. If that had been a city cop, even if I legally can do that, now it's not a good idea to do that in the city. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But they're calling the ERT. Because they're like, I don't know how to deal with this situation.
Just ask them.
Because I find in the bush or smaller places, and if you're smart, you're not going to last long. You can't go in guns a-blazing because it's one or two guys and the whole community. And if the whole community wants to say, fuck you, you're not winning that fight.
I don't care what your badge says. You disappear, bro.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man.
That's just the reality of violence.
Yeah.
Versus in the city, they have the absolute use of force because they can have 100 cops there if they need to really fast in an ability to take it. And that's why you get a lot of city people demanding these silly ideas because they live in the city. They've detached from violence. They don't understand it. They're talking a big game. These are the same people, internet warrior keyboards, who as soon as you actually kind of like, what'd you say to me? They're like, I'm calling the cops right now. It's like, what the fuck? Just apologize and walk off, you idiot. You don't even need to get the cops involved half the time. It's like pointless.
Oh, yeah. I've been in a lot of altercations where I fought people and I found them the next day. Because it's a small community. You can't get away from everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it was a guy I worked with. And I mounted him eventually.
Yeah.
And then people freak the fuck out because jiu-jitsu is lethal.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Oh my God, he's doing lethal jiu-jitsu.
I'm going to kill him because I'm working a gi choke. And because he hit me. And I got really upset. But anyways. And I have so much respect for this motherfucker for this one thing. Because I go to play hockey.
Yeah.
He shows up kind of half cut, sits down beside me and he goes, hey, we had a bit of a tussle. Cowboy shit too.
Yeah.
I love him. Jean tuxedo. Great guy. And he's like, we had said some things. Some things happened, I just want to shake your hand and feel like we're done with it. And that was the end of it.
Yeah. I wish more people would do that.
And I went out and did my shift. And every time I see him now, I go, hi, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah. One thing that bothers me.
He hit me so hard.
Oh, I imagine.
He was a taller guy.
Well, I've had that. I've been punched and I look at them. I'm like, this does not happen anymore. I used to be crazier, didn't have the skills.
Yeah.
And then you get hit and you just like,
you feel like equal force, right?
And then they're like, uh-oh, that usually works.
Oh,
and I'm like, no. But really inside I'm terrified. I'm like, fuck, I don't know how to fight. Like, I don't know what to
training
do.
is great for that. I took like a nasty uppercut today and just roll with it.
Oh, yeah.
Look at him, get back.
I got to get in the mode, though. Like, me personally, like, in training, like, I was rolling with Mike fucking a while ago. Way back in the day, and it's my fault because like he pulled guard and I tried to jump and he kneed me right in the nuts as hard as he could, and I kept going because I'm in the mode.
Yeah.
But like on the street casually, I'm not expecting people to get violent with me.
Yeah.
So I don't turn it on until I'm like, but once it turns on, I'm like, okay.
I get elbowed a lot in jiu-jitsu and stuff, and the jiu-jitsu thing, wherever you train, it's okay. You just say sorry, or, you know, you just be like, I didn't mean to do that. because some people just can't control their elbows and knees for whatever reason. White belts, you guys got to keep it down, baby, or join Muay Thai. But I've never once stopped because I came from MMA.
Yeah,
Prince George MMA. I got into jiu-jitsu, but it's like you get hit, so what? This is what happens.
Keep going. Yeah.
You get hit. Yeah. You deal with it.
Well, there's a lot of like what I was kind of getting at. It took me a sec to remember. It's like I'll be like, yeah, I admit I'm not the best at apologizing, whatever. It's like, okay, I did
hard.
I did something wrong.
I think because like you truly, I've never had an issue apologizing.
Yeah.
I've had an issue apologizing to somebody, and them going, "Oh, I don't care, fuck you."
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, I tried to olive branch, and it got thrown in my face."
Well, my issue is sometimes it's for sure one person fucked up, but sometimes it's two people that fucked up.
I say it's usually two people,
and I'm like, okay, I can apologize for what I did, but I'd also like you to apologize for what you did. Like, I did nothing wrong. I'm like, dude, I know people think I'm nuts, but I didn't get mad for no reason, and I was talking to you about it. I've had this happen multiple times. They're like, no, you're just a dick, and I'm like, listen, I overreacted, but I also think that you handle that poorly. And people get like, well, you're not really taking personal responsibility because otherwise you wouldn't tell me. And I'm like, for like Jocko Willing's personal, everyone needs to do it or it doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah.
And
because then they're just taking on your shit
too. And what'll end up happening, and this happens, this is why Jocko Willing, and I am always bring this up, is he's apologized for calling it extreme ownership, because what happens is people take on all the ownership and they drive themselves nuts. Yes. For extreme ownership to work, everybody needs to take ownership. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to apologize, if it's truly your fault, like if you walk up to someone and just deck them, that's your fault. Yeah. But if you're having a discussion and then it goes sideways, guess what? It's two people, like, you
didn't need to be talking when it started.
Couples get in fights all the time, and usually one person, it's like, well, no, it's both of you.
No, I can explain that too. It's just like my ex-fiance, she actually broke my nose. Because we got drunk on Ukrainian vodka. And I had this silly
Polish vodka is the worst one.
Apparently, no, I can't. It's dead to me. And I don't blame her for this. And we did talk it out the next day. Like, I didn't hit her, but like she hit me, broke my nose, smashed my nose. It's a mess to this day. And that conversation was me being selfish and going, if we hypothetically had children, I'd raise them as First Nations. Yeah. Now she's deep-blooded Ukrainian. Yeah. It's not going to happen, right? But we didn't talk that point. Yeah. We just got both on defensive, and it escalated and escalated and escalated. Because I'm deep-rooted in my culture, deep-rooted in her culture. We're just going to shout at each other. No one's going to back down. And it got too far because we're both drunk. Yeah. And it's like the next day, that's what I told her. I said, it's silly because in my culture, I come from a matriarch. Yeah. The mothers just make decisions, and that's the final. Yeah. They would probably end up being more like you anyway with your culture, because then, for one, I'd want them to be, because you're Ukrainian. Yeah. You're also First Nations. But if that's again, hypothetical, and this was all hypothetical. Yeah.
Hypothetically,
ended up with me breaking my nose. So it's like things never need to go that far, and it's very easy to backstep and go like, I actually didn't mean that. I didn't say that your culture is less than mine, but those words didn't get said in that moment, right? Yeah. So you have to take that personal responsibility, and then, but she did too. Yeah. Going, I didn't know that. I should have voiced that too. And then it goes like, well, maybe we shouldn't drink vodka and argue.
It actually there's it's truth to that like, because I have been dating outside of my culture for a long time, and I have
I'm so ignorant to like Jewish culture, or arrogant, one of the two, that I was like, I told myself I would never date a Jewish girl.
I wouldn't either.
No, because I just don't know. Yeah. Everyone says that with their own culture. I train a guy who's like from Ukraine, and I tell him about like those experiences. 'Cause I learned a lot dating her and all that stuff. And he's like, "Oh man, don't do that. You should have done that."
Well, it's like for me, like I am Jewish, but I didn't, because my mother's mother converted, and she's a prairie girl from Saskatchewan, like Catholic Irish prairie girl. So my mother has a lot of tendencies that are more prairie girl. Oh, yeah. Not even though she grew up Jewish in a Jewish home, because of her mother. I didn't really like. I went to Jewish Sunday school and all that stuff, and it's like I'm not really Jewish culturally. I'm kind of a weird mix. So I didn't go to Jewish school. I went to Sunday school, but I didn't go to like the Jewish school. I didn't grow up in like a real Jewish home. And I find it hard to deal with North American Jews that just are all up in the Jewish culture, even if they're not religious. And I find it's like a bubble world, and I don't like it.
I tell everybody your culture's cool, but don't bleed it into everybody else's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't make anybody do any of my native spirituality shit. Like, if I come to a dojo and it's a space that I'm going to be in and I have permission, I will take the sage out and I'll sage the area.
I was like, what the hell is going on?
But if people get crazy, I will say scientifically, sage actually kills bacteria in the air. Yeah. So, like, if anything, it's just cleaning.
That's a good point.
So if anything, it's just cleaning. Don't worry.
I have no problem with all sorts of ancestral stuff, but if you sound like a woo-woo bullshit artist, I'm going to tune out.
I basically like the JWs, Jehovah's Witnesses. They're my bar. If you start getting anywhere close to what they do, then I'm like, I can't talk to you or spend time with you. Yeah, you're crazy.
Well, if you're not gonna have it, if you're not gonna have a conversation,
like I have Muslim friends, and I say, well, tell me stuff. I don't know nothing, dude.
That one's hard for me because when I try to, I'm like. And I'm not an expert, but when you start realizing they don't even know their own culture, and I start bringing up stuff that they don't even know, which is quite common, I'm like, we can't have a conversation then.
Well, you can't because we lack knowledge.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. Now
I got a hardcore introduction because when I was in university, for whatever reason, they put I don't know, maybe it would work because I was native and I was in the dorms. They put me with 4 guys that were Muslim, and they actually would pray every day, and do all that stuff, like just right in the living room. And I was like, "What's in there?" There's more of them to me, and I don't know. And they said, "Well, do you want to pray?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't really pray with you. We're not the same. But I will." Pray the way I pray, but I'll pray with you guys because we live together and we need to have some type of sense of like everybody's okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna lie. I have had, as friendships go, and I've had a lot of Muslim friends, but I don't think in the end they're really my friends. There's always this edge, and
that's always a hard. That's
it's never gone well. Yeah. Now, with that being said, like I used to work in this workplace where this direct supervisor was just like white trash, just complete like. Alcoholic, was out of prison, and they hired a pretty devout Muslim, and he would go and pray 5 times a day. And even if I have my issues with Islam, the white trash guy's making stupid comments about it, and he's like, "You can't go and pray." I'm like, "Actually, he can. So you need to fuck off." Yeah. No, even if I am disturbed by it personally, I'm not going to tell him he can't do that.
Oh no, I have like black family, and like living up north, it gets like more or less politically correct, which is nice and bad at the same time. And a guy always say basically, it's like, "Oh, this is like using the N words. Like this is N word. This is N work." Yeah. I really don't like saying it because I know like that power, that hate is in that. It's kind of how I always describe the N word. But he said it. I literally just right chest to the chest, and he didn't know what to do because we're always super cool. And I'm like, dude, like I have black family, and you say that shit. You basically, the way I described it to him, that he came to terms with me on it, was that I said like that's what they would say to somebody when they would chase them to hang them. Yeah. And I don't want to be in that space in my life at all. Yeah. Same thing with like I don't know. Do we call it the F word? That's not fuck for gay people. Hard T. It's just the same.
It's just a cigarette in England.
Yeah, but it's the same intent is in that word when you would do that. Yeah. And it's like, and I was saying like, well, yeah, if guys are in a fight and are trying to get each other, I guess I'm going to let it go. It's 1-on-1. Yeah. But when I hear that word, I'm always imagining people chasing a guy down to hang him or to do some type of terrible thing where he can't do nothing because it's 5-on-1 or some shit like that.
Group fighting.
Yeah. Well, group fighting's terrible, and I tell people there's a few things you can do. There's a few things you can do if you have to do it. Yeah. And because I've had to do it. Yeah. Like had to be in a...
I just realized
that was very common. It was a very common tactic where I grew up is to get somebody drunk and then put them in the corner of the room and then everybody just beat them up.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something I said to do with that Muslim that was praying at work.
Oh, yeah.
I am uncomfortable around hardcore religion in general, including Judaism. Including Judaism.
Because I feel like I walk into a room I shouldn't have been in. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this seems very personal, and I don't know what to do. And
I just don't like it. When I was the relationship thing, you need like I had dated some girls who were not religious, but they went to church and and I'm like, if I raise a kid, I'm going to make them aware of the Jewish heritage, but I don't care that much. Other than people find out they're partial Jewish, they might have a problem, and that they need to be aware of it. But I was like, if I'm ever dating someone or have kids with someone that's like, hey, I need to take my kids to church, I'm going to be like, fuck, now I need to take them to synagogue because I want them to have perspective.
Yes.
And
I say just understand who you are.
Yeah, and I was one of those people when I was younger that's like, fuck religion, I hate it, I don't understand it, because I genuinely believe humans should evolve past it. But actually, Ben Shapiro, I don't know.
Just be native, be spiritual. Yeah, just be part of the atoms.
Yeah. Well, Ben Shapiro made the best argument about why you need religion, and he basically is admitting humans suck, and that a lot of people without some sort of system that's beyond man, cannot cope. They just go crazy. And I'm like, you know what? That's a valid point. That if you take this idea that's beyond humans, like a god, and you're accountable to someone's watching you, it actually keeps a lot of people in check. Yeah. Because I think most people are fools, and a lot of people are just not capable of keeping themselves in check without that. I
tell people if I had to be devout to any type of religion, it would be the Viking religion.
The Viking. You know what? There's a lot of people who are doing that nowadays. And
I fucking love them to death. Yeah. Well, that's part of my heritage. My mom's half Swedish, half Cree, and my dad's First Nations and Irish.
How can you be all those things?
It's amazing when people fuck.
It's called genetics. Look it up. It's in a book.
Yeah. No one's really anything anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you're part of those crazy islands down in Brazil.
Yeah. Well, it's like for a while they were pushing that image of the mixed kid. We're all going to be dark skinned. I'm like, not if China takes over, man. We're all going to be Asian.
or like, that's the funny thing where people like, it's the most whitest people in the world, like the Icelanders and the Norways, they don't have that much of an issue with anyone in mixed culture going into their thing. Yeah. Because eventually it's like, well, eventually you'll be pale as us because we...
Yeah, because the skin thing, like it's to do with evolution.
It's where you are in the world.
Sun and exposure and all that stuff.
If you want to get up and we all move to Africa, my people will eventually be black.
Yeah, eventually.
Just because it's part of the environment.
Yeah.
And I always tell people you should also jump into your environment. Like if you go like... If I have to move somewhere, I always find like the local... This is where I get kind of hippie, but I find that beehive, whoever's selling it, the local honey, because that's the actual plants, so you kind of like get more in tune with your environment, eating food from your environment. Yeah, and I always do that with honey for sure because it's easy to find. But
yeah, well, you can find it here. I do think like trying to eat locally is probably a good idea.
It's just a good idea.
Yeah, as a general rule. Yeah. In BC, we have the best blueberries in the world.
Yeah,
fortunately,
that's why people are like saying no to the pipelines. Like, name it, don't mess with the food.
Yeah, yeah.
No, the farmers aren't in on that. Yeah. The reason why the other issue with natives are really pissed off about that shit.
Which specifically?
Any pipeline in BC is that a straight line's the best way, right? Yeah. They couldn't go. The straight line takes them through white farmland. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we can't do this, so they cut over into native land. That's why it's a super issue right away. Yeah. No matter what economic thought process you go with, the fact they just did that immediately, same with the North Dakota pipeline. Yeah. They were like, oh, we can't go through this white community. The natives, fuck them. Yeah. And it's like, okay, right away we disagree. Yeah. Right away I don't like you. Yeah. Because of the decisions you're making.
This bothers me when people like, I fucking hate the media. They're such crap. If you just say that, explain in a sentence what the actual problem is. Instead of hyping up the ethnic race violence.
Or whatever your agenda is.
Explain what you say that. See, I did not know that. And it's like, oh, that makes absolute sense. You're not treating them equally in this situation. I would be mad too. But they're not doing that.
Yeah, all the other stuff they add onto it. Like, we don't actually want a pipeline here. Yeah. Right? They're like, we don't even want it here. And like, so. And the farmers didn't. Yeah. Because they want their water for their cows and stuff, right? So
it's like if you're going to run it through and treat everyone who's on the land like equal. That's where it's okay. Now I get it. Now that makes sense to me. Yes, I made my whole economic thing is okay. Yeah, we still need to deal with this until we have another option. But if you say that in the media, which they never will, because
they do, but it's so undertoned.
Yeah, like it's like COVID. It's like, oh, you see, young people can get sick, and then buried at the bottom is like, oh, they have diabetes. It's like, oh, fuck you.
You can get sick. Yeah, like my friend was really loaded up, but she had like really bad. She had lung issues anyway. Yeah, so she was just bad.
Like to be honest, I think like me and my girlfriend, that she because she was in China in October before, and she came back really sick. Now we weren't sure if it was COVID because there was no testing at the time, or if it's so polluted there that she reacted poorly to it.
That was the worst ADCCs ever.
But then I got sick after. And then I was like, we think we actually got it before all of that. I actually heard this theory, and now it was done in a conspiracy, but it actually kind of makes sense, is that by the time China realized they had a problem, a lot of them had already had it anyways. And so that's why, I mean, yes, extreme totalitarian, insane lockdowns aside, they're back to normal already. Yeah. And it was just like, and the theory is that, China didn't want to say that they had already known that most of the population had it, and that's why their numbers look so good at flatten the curve, which explains why these lockdowns aren't working anywhere else. Because if you look at the map of America, where was the highest numbers at the beginning? It was on the coastal cities, and now where's the highest numbers? It's in the middle of the cities, and you can actually see it's just burning through the population, guys. That's what's going on. Like, I don't need you, the expert, to tell me. I can watch the time lapse of where the hot spots are, and I can see, well, so much for lockdowns. It's just doing its thing and going through everyone, and everyone's going to get it, and we're all going to be immune, except how it's already evolving in all these million strains. And guess what? It's going to be just like the flu. Different than the flu, but just like the flu as far as how we deal with it.
Well, it does that. It does that.
Yeah, and it's just like, you motherfuckers, like... Thank God they're not going to push the vaccination here, personally, because I have no problem with vaccination.
I'll jump in. I don't care.
But it's like, I'm young and healthy. I don't need it.
It won't
right now.
Get me. I'm fine.
If I'm 70, I'll be like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. I'm going to die or not die anyway, so why not? But it's like,
Chris Rock always had a good joke about that. When you're that old, everything is natural causes.
Yeah. And it's just like, I actually think it's, as you said, being an educated native, it's like education in general.
Oh, it's terrifying for anybody. That's
People
like the hardest
don't
person
know.
to talk to.
Yeah.
You ever met somebody smarter than you?
Yeah.
You just try to like chat them up, and it's like super hard to like.
Yeah.
It's like you have to cut. That's what my favorite teacher never taught me anything. We did social studies. I love history, so I did learn. But he was a Buddhist, and he taught me so much about not the religion, but just the life of being Buddhist. Yeah. Like just the philosophy, the core gripping philosophy. Like any religion, the core gripping philosophy is really good. Yeah. Right? And he just kind of sat there going like, well, anytime you talk to somebody, you just want to listen and just interact with them. That interaction doesn't actually have to have somebody coming out on top. Yeah. Now, this is what I was a kid. I was like 15, so that was a real hard opening thing.
You mean
for
you don't
me.
have to win?
No, because I'm native, right? We grew up in this where we just fucking like we're a bunch of dogs hanging out each other, biting our ears. That's just we make fun of each other, and sometimes it goes too far. And some people don't learn to go, hey, you're actually hurting my feelings. Yeah. And I need you to not do that because you're my cousin and I love you. Yeah. Which is something they should really say, because I'm sure most people would be like, well, I didn't mean like that. I was just messing around. But that really hurt my feelings. People just internalize it. Take it.
And then hold grudges.
Yeah. Like I make my one cousin have the hardest conversations with him every time we hang out, because he has a lot of issues and he hasn't gotten over them yet with his addictions issues. Yeah. But he made fun of me for liking girls so much. I didn't really date someone until I was 18. Oh, jeez. But I didn't like girls. I was just so scared to like girls. Yeah. And that's socializing people for something. But you don't realize you're socializing. But he had to feel like he had something over me every time we talked. Yeah. I saw you looking at Karen, whatever. Just like, and I get shy, and he like sees.
What's the anxiety? Like young boys develop, and I saw the hilarious meme. It's like, that's me. It was like back in the day. It's like in school, you never talk to the hottest girl in school, but on MSN or ICQ, you're flaming up all night. And I was like, yeah, I talked to all the popular girls on these chat groups back when it was normal to talk to random people on the internet. But in person, I was like, never say a word to them.
Oh, it's scary shit.
It's like, but that's circling.
They might like me, really.
Circling back, it's the mentorship. You need a strong male role model. You need a strong female role model, whether it be direct or indirect. And I just like, I didn't have that.
I always make jokes to say, no, you guys, everyone's always talking about girls who are a little dirty. Don't hate on those girls. Yeah. Like, why? Because I got to hang out with those girls, and they actually taught me how to like be around girls.
Yeah. That is actually true.
I'm not lying. Like if I couldn't spend, the most high uppity moral girl would have taught me like, oh no, women actually want this.
Yeah, and that, and this, and this.
Yeah. Like, or how to actually hang out with them. Yeah. Like.
Well, that's why you need a strong female role model. You need a strong. You don't want a prude, religious person who's going to tell you all sorts of lies about how sex works. But
you definitely want that. It doesn't work out too well.
Abstinence is the only way. Yeah, that's how you get high levels of teenage pregnancy, because you didn't teach them anything.
The funny thing about that, because that was a big issue when I was in high school, and it was like to see the internet and like just free information, and like to see the numbers go down with teenage pregnancy, because I just know all about it now. Yeah. Oh shit. Oh, what is anal sex? I could just watch it right now. Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. Well,
learning from porn is probably not a good idea.
But you can find out. There's like a document there to like actually see the real facts of what's really there, and then you could see like, well, can you watch someone actually do it?
Well,
in fact, you can.
I learned. This is how. Not from school, but because I had a TV in my room. Yeah. And they used to have like the Sex Files, or those educational sex shows.
Sunday Night Sex Show?
Well, no, not with Sue.
That's
never watched that. They're like they're educational with some artistic graphic scenes. Yeah. But they're talking about it, and I learned that way, because it's like, oh, okay. And of course, meanwhile, in high school, you're like, here's a condom, here's a banana. It's like, that doesn't now.
One of my favorite jokes ever in a show was like a character was really stupid, and like one of the girls in like the college got pregnant, and everyone's trying to find who it was. Yeah. And he's like, don't you use condoms? And he looks at me and goes, condoms are for bananas. Yeah. That's what I was taught. I just love that. I was like, he literally doesn't know what condoms are for.
I mean, a lot of people don't like. This person's long out of my life. This is like 12, 13 years ago, there was this girl.
It's a dark time. 10 years ago, any time in your life?
Yeah. I'm using the back in my day. I'm not even that old.
You're like 10 years old and you go like, man, when I was 1,
yeah.
I was shitting myself.
Right. This girl thought birth control was the morning after pill. And I'm
That's
like,
not healthy.
Nope. And I'm like, how many times have you taken it?
And I only know that because of girls who weren't prudish.
Yeah. And I was like, how many times have you taken it this year? And she's like, told me an obscene. And I'm like, you might not be able to have kids in the future. Yeah. I'm like, she's like, what? And I'm like,
I'm sorry to break it to
you. You need to take the birth control pill in its various forms.
Or some kind
of something. Yeah. And she's like, what? Because you can just, and I'm not against it, but you can go no questions asked in Canada, at least if here, and women under a certain age can get it for free, morning after pill or the birth control pill. Under 25, I think it still applies.
Yeah, it's a good program, guys.
It's a good program, except they don't actually teach you anything because they're coming from a perspective of don't ask, don't tell. We want you to feel comfortable coming in. But then here's a girl who knew about the program, knew she could get it free. No one taught her about sex, and she's just coming in taking the morning after pill all the time.
You want to like ask some questions in a very like casual way. Well, I'm like not casual, like be slick, like tricking somebody, but just be like, "Hey, you've been here a few times. I don't want to actually."
Well, they're supposed to.
I want to inform you. Yeah, you know, like
they're supposed to, but I think whoever the pharmacists were didn't do that.
Yeah, see, that's the human error.
Because like after 12 times in a year, or it was probably more than that, it's like
it's not good.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah,
and it's just like
I think in that case, because where I grew up. Because people can be irresponsible. Yeah. So someone can just make that choice. Yeah. Oh, well, you know, this is probably bad for them. I don't care. They just make that. Which is unfortunate because you never give people the chance to be better. Yeah. You know, they just kind of keep.
Well, that's where I'm education. And when I was having this discussion, it's how do you decide what education is the right education? And I'm like, well, right now, let's say sex ed, they're pushing a lot of gender stuff, which is pissing a lot of people off. And I'm like,
just what is, just leave it at that.
Yeah. And I was just saying, here's what you do in the public school system. You teach what we know to be 100% factual, that's not even debatable. And then you teach people how to think and how to make decisions. Yeah. So math, pretty easy to teach, right? Basic biology has cell structure. It's pretty easy to teach. Keep the politics out of it. Keep your opinion out of it when it comes to that, and teach people how to think and make decisions. And I even think that they need to have gap years in high school and gap years in university.
I don't believe in high school in general, just from my experience and how bad it is for everyone who's ever gone. Even I remember the most popular girl, and I remember talking to her, and her version of high school. Well, no, her version of high school was like, wow, that sounded shitty. I did not believe it was like that for you. Yeah. At all.
The joke is that the popular kids peak in high school. A lot of them do.
Yeah. Like, well, I don't think that was ever her issue. Yeah. Like, she just was just beautiful and tall and sociable.
Oh, I knew a person.
The tall part was a big deal.
I knew a person who in high school was a professional model. Oh, yeah. And when I talked to her about history or the knowledge wasn't there. Yeah. She was a straight A student.
Oh, well, there you go, yeah.
You have to. I knew her very well, and I'm like,
no, I understand that because
how are you a straight A? Because she got people to do the work for her, and then learned how to pass the tests. Damn. Because when you actually, and I'm not saying this is all attractive people.
Yeah, no, just it's possible though.
Yes. It's just really pointing on the point that I'm sorry. This is a thing society needs to get over with. If you're tall and you're attractive, life is easier. They've done studies on the fat suit studies, where you take someone who always gets special treatment and then you put them in a fat suit and they're like, why are people being so mean to me? Right? And people don't realize how much their looks often goes. Right?
Even just on the top of it, like I tell people, is like, you've ever gone to like an industrial area, it smells gross and it's dirty, you just don't feel cool. You go to the forest, it's pristine and clean. You
mountain air,
visually saw something attractive or pleasing, and now you're happier. Yeah. Just leave it at that, man.
Like, and I accept I'm short as shit. Like it makes I've tested this social theory on my own where I'll say something, someone else will say something 5 minutes later, whether it be I've seen other men who are taller and you know what would be considered good looking, or even like some of my exes who are, you know, short petite girls or taller or attractive, and people get angry at me and laugh and play with the other person, whether it be male or female. I'm like, they'll be like, it's how you're saying. I'm like, maybe, but it's also the attractive factor, and people need to stop with this delusion. Yeah, and it's probably both. But one thing we know for sure is aesthetics matters.
Just is.
And it's like,
that's why my favorite jiu-jitsu gyms are the dungy, gross ones.
Yeah,
like people really do.
Even though everybody likes the ones that are nice and clean. And
the beautiful facilities are amazing, but the ones that are like just hard.
Well, you hear what Mike's gonna do here. He's getting one of this graphic designer. They're gonna put like DBZ and all this sort of stuff.
Dope, man.
I
already like this place more.
We'll find out because like I've seen that done in gyms and it's done poorly. But I know the graphic designer, so I'm sure it'll be done really well.
I just like personality.
I like personality in Vancouver, though. People tend not to like the personality. As far as like, I don't know. Do you ever see my old gym I had in Richmond that looked like a New York basement gym? Yeah,
no.
And people are like, "This is dirty." I'm like, it's just an old like New York style old boxing thing. And I'm like, if this was the Bronx, people would love it. Yeah. But in Vancouver, people are like, I don't want to train here. Like this is dirty and it's cold.
We're kind of like. I would tell everybody, like, just go to Kitsilano and, like, hang out with yoga people. That's kind of the sense of Vancouver's fashion and aesthetics.
Yeah, it's got to be really clean and not dirty and this and that.
Just that, and that's kind of how they're down with it. And like, it's just Vancouverites. I love them to death. I love the city.
Oh, I love the city.
Never leave.
I'll
probably never.
But people here are so fucking annoying.
But they're very interesting. For sure. But there's good people, man. I've run into a lot of cool people.
Yeah. Well, it's like they say.
For no reason. Be nice for absolutely no reason.
Well, if you socialize, you'll meet in cool people all the time enough.
I don't know about that.
Or people you hate. But like Vancouver is known as it's like a hard community to date in.
Oh, 100%. And you have to be like, if you're a girl, you have to, man, I don't even, like you have to be some type of yoga model.
Yeah.
Essentially. And then like, as a man, you need to be able to like buy a house.
Yeah, you need to have a Maserati or a Ferrari or something.
You need all that, which is hilarious because I know the guys who have all that shit. They're like, "Oh, I'd sell it down."
Yeah.
It's because it's like that reverse thing. Like they're just fishing, right?
Yeah. And it's like me. Well, possibly you as martial artists, it's frowned upon. Like in a city like Vancouver in particular, because it's like you're a martial artist. You don't make millions of dollars. You can't be with my daughter. And it's like, dude, just enjoy life. Like, am I surviving? Is everything going reasonably okay?
I think I get lucky with that, just being native. Right away, I was like, no, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons, like, me and my ex-fiance, we broke up. She had that expectation. She's younger. She had to learn that, like, some expectations are never going to be met in your life. Yeah. But I was like, no, I'm going to live my life as happily as I can. Yeah. And me being your breadwinner isn't making me happy. Yeah. You make me happy. I really like you. Yeah. I like spending time with you while I do my life. Yeah. But it just didn't.
It's a hard thing to make, especially traditionally. Like, it's.
Like Ukraine, 100%.
Yeah.
Wife finds a good man. Yeah. Man looks for a good wife.
And it's I find it hilarious.
Like the Greeks are like that.
Yeah, I find it hilarious that it's the left that's like, get rid of the gender roles. But the same people are like, I need a man to pay, except for the hardcore feminists. But it's like, I thought you guys were saying this was gone now.
So I said equality's not fair.
Yeah, and it's like, I have no problem staying at home and stuff. Like,
oh shit, man!
It's like I don't care.
I'd be a stay-at-home dad.
I'll take care of the kids. No problem. I'll cook. I don't have a problem with that.
I do cook. Yeah.
It's just like there is that still like, what the fuck does society want these days from people?
People have to. If you decide what you truly want as an individual, you get away from that life as fast as you can.
Most of the time.
Yeah, like people really do when they go like, what do I want?
Yeah. Well, I just always joke like. If you're living at your parents in your 30s, I'm like, okay, let's look around the country in the past 10 years.
Oh, dude.
How many people are living with their parents in the 30s now because the world has changed from 30 years ago? Get over it.
Yeah, like I remember like talking to those people and they're like, how much was your house?
Yeah.
Just outside Kitsilano there on the way to UBC. Beautiful, beautiful house. Yeah. They're like, oh, it was like $2,000, I think. Or something. Yeah. Like I remember my one of my teachers, he said.
What do you mean by $2,000?
$2,000 just the house.
Buy.
That's what she bought it for.
It was like 40 years ago.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
There's now it's like that's rent.
I actually heard a story about that. There was a couple like that, and they had a medium, like not a great income, but they'd been living in kits because they've been there forever. But then the property taxes went so up, they were house broke, even though they didn't have a mortgage. Because they couldn't afford the property taxes. Like
this is why natives, man, just get the property tax, baby.
Yeah, right.
Don't worry about it. Just let everybody come move in. Just you just make sure you pay the tax.
Yeah, it was like all of the people leaving California because of their insane policies and going to Texas. They're like, enjoy the property tax, and it's like, at least I know it's stable every year and it's not going to change dramatically because of policy, and I will still have more money if I just have the property tax versus 60% of my income.
Texas needs people anyway.
Texas needs people?
Yeah, they need people.
In what sense?
Well, they kicked out all the natives.
Oh, and
there's no native land there at all.
Oh, it's all
whatsoever.
private, yeah.
Yeah, like it's all taken away. So they just have so much space.
Yeah, it's 90% or 95% privately owned Texas.
Yeah, so it's like Texas is a really strange bubble. I like Tejas. It's awesome.
I've yet to be there yet. I need to go one day.
It's just it's so different. And when I was there, I felt people gave me personal respect. Yeah. I mean, like I could just be me.
Yeah. Generally, low crime rate there because everyone knows you might get shot if you run your mouth.
Yeah, everyone's packing.
It's not as bad as people say it is, but it's it's a respecting the use of force. If you know there's consequences, even if you're in the right and they're in the wrong, if you know there's consequences that you could die, you don't fuck around as much.
Oh yeah, man, you don't go commit crime in Gotham. You know Batman's out there.
Yeah, and yet all the crime keeps going on because maybe he should start offing the Joker and just getting rid of them.
It's funny because those are his best stories. Where he does kill the Joker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones that people are just like, we want more of it. But DC's too scared because it's their cash cow.
Yeah, Batman.
Yeah, they can't kill Joker.
Yeah.
Joker.
I don't actually like that Batman moral stance in most of the thing. It's like, dude.
He didn't always have it. It's a new thing. It's a new concept. So
yeah, it's bullshit because it's like, dude, you want the crime to go away, kill fucking Joker. You put him in jail the first time, he got out, he just causes havoc, destroys everything again. This is clearly a psychopath who does not going to play nice with society. He's gone, done.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's just the nature.
Well, I bring up two things. I say even the Ninja Turtles kill a Shredder in the first episode, in the first bit.
Well, I think they did.
Well, in the original comics, they did.
Yeah.
That's why like Baxter Stockman came out and all that stuff. So Fusion Gear came out with that new fucking rash guard. I gotta get that one. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not that into Ninja Turtles. I was when I was little, but I'm just like,
no, I'm still in.
I do like the Batman stuff.
That's all I still want to do. I just want to do martial arts and eat pizza. Yeah. I just want to be a Ninja Turtle still.
Don't talk about pizza. I'm on keto right now. I really want a pizza.
I'm dieting for fighting. So
yeah, that's true.
I will have ramen tomorrow. That's my cheat meal.
Yeah, I will do that. I'll probably because I do it as I said at the beginning like a reset, but I love pizza. I gotta be careful. Amazing, dude. I gotta be careful.
If we had actual jiu-jitsu and everything was going normal and I could come here every Sunday and I could do all this stuff, I would train so much I wouldn't need to diet.
Yeah, which is true. If you train enough, you burn the calories.
I'd just be so busy and always doing stuff. Like I haven't actually eaten today yet.
Oh yeah, me neither.
I threw vitamins in my mouth. I swallowed BCA and I trained 5 rounds and I came here. Yeah. So like if you have a busy enough life, dieting isn't always like a necessary thing, I believe. Yeah. It's like, well, Gary Tonon's young, but Gary Tonon diet, man. Just do 10 rounds, have a cheeseburger.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do have to make sure you get proper nutrition and personal considerations. What
you can
works for your body.
You can have a bison cheeseburger. You can have a good cheeseburger. Yeah. You don't need to go to Wendy's. You know,
not
that Wendy's is bad.
I love pizza, but I always regret it the next day. But I'm not going to have a pizza every day. Because eating too much bread for me is. Yeah,
I'm trying to teach myself to have like 2 slices of pizza.
Yeah, that's never.
I don't need a pizza.
Never going to happen.
I try to teach myself that where I'm like, no, I want pizza. Yeah, cool. You have a couple slices.
I usually limit my pizza intake to the days that my girlfriend goes out with her friends.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm alone for the first for whenever once a month, and then I'm like, I'm having a pizza. Nice,
yeah. Well, it's also I remember talking to my one cousin about it, but I was like, you need to have treats for yourself.
Yeah.
Man. You have to have discipline, but you have to manage it. You have to be I always say manage your happiness is what I've said to a friend because she was getting depressed and oh, I don't do this. No, you have to manage your happiness. Yeah. When I watch a show, I watch one episode. I'll watch another one tomorrow.
I definitely don't do that.
Yeah, but because I saw that pattern with myself where I was watching these shows, I'm like, oh, now I get depressed, very minorly. But I'm like, I didn't need to do that. Yeah. I could have watched an episode every night, had a bit of a routine, and then when the next show I find comes up, I can splice it in or whatever. And I do that with pizza. Like I say, I want pizza. Okay, we'll have some pizza.
Yeah.
You can have some pizza.
It's called moderation.
Yeah, it is moderation.
With that being said,
These ancient thoughts.
Well, it's like alcohol outside of the Native community.
I actually was really good at it, but now I'm finding that it's just I'm getting too old to where it's messing with my fitness too much.
Yeah, in that case, when you're athletic. What I mean is you can have a drink a day.
Yeah,
and
really
it's totally fine. It's totally fine. You can't get blitz drunk every day. In fact, you shouldn't even get blitz drunk every weekend.
No, it's bad for your body.
It's really bad for you. But a drink every day, maybe even 2, depending on your body type. A minor buzz is fine.
Or if you want it. If you just really genuinely want it.
Yeah. Having that conversation with Puritans, you're an alcoholic. And I'm like, not really. And then you talk to alcoholics dude, you know what an alcoholic is? It's the guy who saves a little drop in the bottom of his bottle so that when he wakes up, he has just enough a sip to walk to the liquor store and get more. I was like, holy shit. That's what I was told once. It's
I
crazy.
grew up with alcoholics, and I still know alcoholics. So no one can talk to me about what alcoholism is.
Yeah.
And what I would say alcoholism really is, in my opinion, I'm not, but when you are willing to sacrifice other things in your life for alcohol.
Yeah.
So whether that be spending time with people, changing your life for something else, like the alcohol becomes so important, I can possibly do something different.
Yeah. I mean, that's addiction, and that's how you know it's a problem. Is it affecting your family life? Is it affecting your work life? Martial arts can be addicting to some people. And I was talking.
That's why you got to have those people who are sharks. He's like, oh, I'm super addicted. I always come. Do you want to mess with that guy every day?
It's like I tell people, like, anything is an addiction. And so, like, I have a problem with people like David Goggins. It's like, if you just do it, you can do it. It's like, okay, and I know he addresses in his book, but it's like, if you want to do what he's doing, he's basically fucked up every relationship he's ever had, including his military ones. A lot of people don't like him. And including, now he has decided, I don't care. This is my life. But if you're going to be a role model like that, you need to be really clear about, listen, you're going to destroy relationships.
No one's really a role model.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
There's not one person you could tell me who's like, well, you got to be more like him. I was like, oh, really? And I'll pick up something he did that was super fucked up. Yeah. And with David Goggins, he made that choice. That's his life. But he is if you have a goal, attack that goal he did.
Goal settings, yes, for sure.
But do you do your whole life like that? No, there's some issues with that at all.
There's a lot of issues. He has an addictive personality.
Like even like one of my idols, Miyamoto Musashi. He was a drunk and he killed people.
Yeah.
He was a drunk and he killed
it's
people.
It's actually funny. I was watching a documentary of Miyamoto Musashi, and it was actually an Australian guy who moved to Japan and is like kendo master in Japan now. And it's a Japanese documentary because the guy was speaking Japanese. And it's like the way they're talking about Miyamoto Musashi is so pure. And I'm like, it's a history. They're still painting him as this perfect warrior. And it's like, dude, he was an alcoholic.
Yeah, he's the Robin Hood. Yeah.
He was like a crazy man.
He was like talk too much about my hero. But like he was literally like a drunk who was all in the geishas.
Yeah.
And when he wasn't
doing
that...
who isn't in a geisha? No.
Oh, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So beautiful.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. I love the geishas because if you're going to have prostitutes, at least have the
classy ones.
Super, some guys just talk to them.
Yeah.
They would do talk jobs because she'd find a way to just make you feel like you were awesome. So I appreciate that. Other than that, it was usually a forced occupation on them. But he was all up in that, and he killed people with swords. But was his ideas good? Was his approach and the way that he found that, was it something you can take? Yeah, you can totally take that.
Well, that's why I always say the Bushido Code is it's a modern creation by the emperor, and that's when we come back to that honor.
So
it's
much sense,
it's not how a lot of people were back then. It really is life or death. You don't play to some silly little code that's going to get you killed half the time. You were like, I'm going to go over here now. Thank you, bye. And if you want to try to kill me, I'll fight you right back. But we're coming up on 3 hours, and I'm going to have to teach virtual soon. Any parting words?
I said, did we get everything? Did we talk about everything?
Oh, we talked about a lot of stuff. Oh, and I things I like to talk about, but then we goes wherever. But is there any parting words, thoughts, things you...
Because we didn't really have any topic, I wouldn't say so, because there's no way to end. It's always treat like an essay, right? You got to leave with something.
A real conversation.
Yeah, no, I always, that's what I prefer, just to shoot the shit.
Yeah.
No, just acta non verba.
Yeah.
Deeds, not words.
Yeah.
Just do that, because that's really what everything we talked about. It comes to that. It's don't just keyboard warrior. Don't just do talking. Don't talk about how you have an opinion.
Yeah.
You just be like, no, just what do you do?
Yeah.
That's gonna always speak to more everything. If you disagree with something, then you don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But what you vote, how you choose, how you live.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Now, social media. Do you have anything you want people to follow you?
Oh, just I'm on Instagram with @Laylock Legion. Not much going on, but normally I do cool stuff. Or people will message me. Some of my older students will be like, "Oh, what's this move again?" And I'll just show it and be like, "This is what it is." It's a good reference point. Because I with living up north and being under Bibi, I couldn't see him all the time. So I didn't have a lot of instruction. So I did a lot of YouTube stuff. So I try to help people out with okay, go with this. Or they'll show me something and I'll show, okay, this is why it worked in that situation. This is what you want to do for the other ones, which is probably going to come up, because one of the things I always bring up to everybody is that someone could just be strong. Or they could just be physical, meaning I could just stand up. So you want to always have a piece in you built for that.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. And if you want to train with CJ, you can get him on Instagram, Leg Lock
the
Region.
privates,
Yeah, because they're still allowed these days.
One-on-ones are allowed, yeah.
Anyways, thanks for coming on. It's a good chat. And I'll see you again.
Yeah, Nanuslan, my language, to see you again.
Shalom.
You're listening to The Warrior's Day. Brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga. Turning lambs into lions.